Okay, let's see. Hello, everybody. Red memes, Jack Smallhammer. Welcome, everybody. You haven't been able to watch the past 5 streams, yeah. Probably because I don't normally stream at 5 p.m. The repricing update was the best. Maybe, we'll see. I haven't like really thought a lot about it, to be honest. This isn't going to be like a rehearsed thing. But this is something that I thought about, that I was actually kind of like, you know what, I kind of want to do that. Like I want to talk about, because there's been a while since I really talked about like all of the like just crap that Mech Arena has done, like all the like certain updates and stuff. I don't talk about it much. So here'd be a good place to kind of do it. And yeah, I wanted to wait till the update dropped. So yes, sir, here we are. All right, so including the price reduction right there, this should be all of the major updates that they've made in the game. I think pretty much since forever, the past like 4 years, or at least as far as I've been playing. 15 of them on the list. If there's any that I missed, let me know. But I don't think so. And these are in like chronological order. So starting off with pilots. Okay, let's... We're gonna make... Oh, hello. We're gonna make S like, you know, it's really good and it's really good for the game. D is like it's super bad and it's super bad for the game. Pilots... It wasn't really good and it wasn't really bad. Like obviously it created it created complications, but I think we all knew that pilots were coming. At least I did. We all knew that it's just an inevitable thing that's going to be in any mech game. Pilots are in every mech game, even though it doesn't really make sense, to be honest. Like, why do I have 5 mechs with 5 different pilots, but they can only go out one at a time into the battlefield? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But you know, every mech game has it. Escape, hello. How are you? Oh, I know. I just waited till our conversation kind of died down. Yo, what? Okay. Don't worry about that. Okay. So yeah, the pilots, as far as it goes, like it was, yeah, it's expensive, and I think they definitely could have done it better. I mean, like let's talk about like, I don't know, the ways that they could have done it better. I think they really overdid it with the damage. Like pilots and implants kind of go together. So when I talk about pilots, I'm also talking about implants. 100% damage boost on with the pilots is ridiculous, and then there was the 40% HP. So it's just, you know, by design, they purposely like overscaled the damage, probably with the intention of including mods later, because they knew that they were going to eventually do it. But you know, they purposely overscaled the damage with pilots and then compensated it later with mods, like years later. And I don't really know why they did that. I feel like they could have just balanced it out pretty well, like from one, you know? Like they could have still added mods. I'm not saying that mods necessarily were unnecessary, but you know, they could have made pilots more balanced, I think. And the benefit to it making them more balanced, or more at least more customizable, is you could just like stack all offense on one mech. Like let's say, for example, if mods, there was like defensive implants and aggressive mods, as opposed to just being offensive implants and defensive mods. So let's say there's like, you know, it's a bit of both. So you could gear your implants toward damage, you could gear your mods toward damage and just go like all in on damage. Or you could do the opposite and do it on like HP. And I think it's better because, you know, customization, obviously. a big part of the game, or at least a big part of what I feel like the game was marketed as for a while anyway, was customization, you know, having options. But you don't really have options, do you? You know, like, do you have the option to use a rare implant, an epic implant, or a legendary implant of the same thing? No, you don't. You just, like, if you have a legendary one, then you use it. There's literally no tactical benefit to using a rare one. So it's just like, and that goes for most implants, you know, like there are just better ones and there are worse ones. And for the most part, it's the same thing with pilots too. You know, they're either better or they're worse, and there's really no in between. And what you're left with is very, like, you know, a very static, like, meta, essentially. Get ready for tons of people asking if they should upgrade their Guardian Stalker or Tengu versus getting Aegis or Redeemer. Oh yeah, probably it'll happen. But that's why I made that video. Hopefully they go watch that instead. Tomorrow, get the Hemlock badge. What a coincidence. Let's go. Will I stream tomorrow? I don't know if I'll stream tomorrow, but maybe I will. How did you end up here? What do you mean? MacD, hello. Watched vid from earlier. Very nice. W stream, welcome, baby. Yeah, you guys are just gonna have to, you're just gonna have to suffer through it. There's gonna be no gameplay. I'm probably gonna edit this into a video later, in which case, yes, I know all of your attention spans are crap, so I'm gonna have gameplay in the top corner or something. Freaking Subway Surfers, you're... I know you can't pay attention. But nah, for now you just have to bear with me here, so we can have some back and forth conversations. I'll be trying to read chat a bit, but for the most part, this is just gonna be me kind of like talking about what I think about each of the updates. New free-to-play accounts are crazy now, bro. I know. I made a new account, and in like 30 minutes I got it to tier 3. And I used 0 promo codes, didn't use the special download link. I used like literally nothing special. I literally just played the game and I got there like so quickly. I was wondering if I edit this into a video. Yeah, I think it's a good one to edit into, yeah. But I probably won't. Because of that, I'll probably only, you know, go for like an hour or so. So I'm not gonna like drag it out too much, but I do want to make sure that I touch on everything that I want to talk about for each of these updates. And like one of the things that I've talked about before for pilots that I want to bring up again is like, and that what I was just kind of talking about is like the customization option. Like personally, I think that there should be way more implants. I do. I think that every weapon should have like 7 different implants to choose from. And I know some people are going to say, well, that's going to make it more difficult to get the implants that you want. And yeah, no, that's an obvious downside. So like if I could snap that into existence right now, would I? Nah, I mean, I'd probably think about it for a while first. But, you know, just in general, like if we could make it so that from the very start, there's like 7 implants for each weapon, just as an example, or whatever, you know, disregarding cost. And the reason I want more implants for mechs and for weapons, the reason I want more implants is because like it forces you to choose something. It forces you to choose something, as opposed to what we're stuck with now is there's a lot of weapons that do really well. In fact, some of the weapons that do really well are dependent on whether or not they have a lot of implants. So weapons that only require like 1 implant, so like Revoker, literally all you need is the Revoker damage implant. And the DPS is so high that you don't technically even need that. But yeah, you don't need the range. It only has 2 implants and you don't even need 1 of them. And that leaves you, you know, extra room for more ability implants. So like, in terms of performance, less is better because it just gets you the peak performance without having to really do much, and it allows you more slots. But I would prefer the opposite. I prefer the opposite, but not to an extent that limits you, but to an extent that actually like gives you opportunities. You know, like implants that increase your RPM, increase your I don't know, reload speed, range, like radius, there's a lot of things that you could add to a lot of weapons. Like some weapons just don't have radius implants, even though they have a damage radius. But you could, you know, like it'd be interesting to like actually build a specific thing in a specific way, but you just can't do that. So in general, what we're left with is a bunch of builds that you either build them correctly or you build them incorrectly. There's no, like, this is my preferred way of doing it. There's just a better way of doing it and a worse way of doing it. And that's simply it in, like, 99% of situations. Yes, there's some amount of preference that goes into a couple builds, but that's basically it. For the most part, it's just this build is better than this one. And it's, like, there's no nuance to it. And that sucks. I don't like that. I much prefer having options. I much prefer being able to like do things in a specific way that I want to do it, or be able to build things in different ways. You know, like if I wanted to like be able to use the same weapon with the same mech, but be able to build it in multiple different ways to be able to get like to be able to use it multiple different ways, like, you know, to kind of fit like a play style, right? Like if I can't reasonably take the same mech and the same weapon, put them together, if I can't reasonably make two rather different working builds out of that, just with the pilots and implants and maybe even mods, if I can't do that, then I don't think that's customization. I think that's just improvement, and there's a very big difference between improvement and customization. So that was the opportunity they had with pilots, but they didn't take that opportunity. It's very sad. Surge buff up next. Ooh, this one was crazy. They did the surge buff was crazy. I hope you guys know. What were the numbers on that? It's like 40% speed boost, 50% more HP. They gave it like an extra second of EMP time. They gave it the stealth that didn't have stealth to begin with. They lowered the cooldown, I'm pretty sure. They increased the ability radius. They gave it everything. Everything. And it was just to Surge, too. They didn't do it to, like, Redox or Brickhouse or the... I think those were the only two legendary mechs at the time, maybe. I don't remember. No, there was a couple others. I think maybe Scorpius as well. They buffed Surge. No, I'm talking about this is forever ago. This is an update tier list. Oh my god. We're already getting people freaking out. Okay, look. This is an update tier list. This is in chronological order. The Surge buff was like years ago. So for anybody who doesn't know, Surge used to be super, super weak in HP. Not weaker than Redox. Redox got an extra buff from the Great Update, but it was super, super weak. And this was before the Great Update. So even compared to like Paragon, it was really weak. Compared to Lancer, it was very weak in terms of HP. It had Slingshot and Puma HP, I believe, 67,000 if I'm not mistaken. The same as Shadow, I think. And yeah, so it was really weak in terms of HP. It was slow. It had 18 kph. So they gave it like a 50% speed boost. The EMP time was like 3 seconds. And then they buffed it to 4. And it didn't have the stealth. But when they buffed it, they gave it stealth. And also, I think it had only 10 meters radius, but they buffed it to give it 12, I think. But yeah, essentially they just gave it everything. That Surge buff was like they just gave it the works, and that was the start of something maybe not so great. The Surge meta literally never stopped. Since that point, Surge was top meta, and that's just it, right? That's just it. EMP is way too strong. Dashes are way too strong. The fact that Surge was hella weak. I mean, like, I used it back then. And it was actually, like, if you played it well, you could still use it really, really well. And I would actually do really good with it. And I was proud of that before they buffed it. But, like, yeah, no, I mean, like, after that, it's, like, the whole There is no precedent to make another dash mech that was that strong, because dash mechs are always going to be strong just because they're dash mechs. You think the dash distance needs to be nerfed? If they nerfed all of the dash distances, I think need to be nerfed. I think most of the reason dash mechs are so freaking strong is because they cover way too much ground in way too short of time. If they covered less ground, I think they would be more balanced. But that's just me. Like, obviously, I don't know that because we don't they obviously can dash as far as they do, so I don't exactly know what would happen if they couldn't. Where's the Zephyr nerf? Zephyr didn't... Well, the Zephyr nerf came with the Great Update, so it was lumped in with all of that stuff. So it wasn't its own thing. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about the Surge buff. I think I just I discovered it on the test server one day. Like, I was on the test server and I just discovered that it was like crazy freaking strong, and I was like, wait, what? Nobody used Surge before then. It was so difficult to use. I was like the only one who used it. Next one, Great Update. I think we can all agree this belongs in D. In fact, I'm going to relabel this to F just for, just for the sake of argument. The Great Update was kind of crap. I sort of understand why they did it. Like, yeah, sure, it kind of made sense. Like, a maxed out legendary thing probably should perform better than a maxed out common thing. But it didn't at the time, and they had no reason to change it, right? Like, if it did from the start, then I would not have questioned it one time, not even a single small amount. I would not have questioned it at all. But the fact that it like, a maxed Surge or a maxed legendary mech was equal to a maxed common mech, the fact that that was the precedent for a long time, for a couple years, I think, at least. That was the precedent for a long time. And then all of a sudden is just like, that's just not the case anymore. And it's like, oh, okay, but like, why? And that was dumb. And another thing that actually happened that a lot of people forget about, and maybe a lot of people didn't even know about, is that during the Great Update, they buffed weapon damage by 50% more than they buffed mech HP. So, like, let's say common items, Paragon, its HP got buffed by 0%. But Autocannon got a 50% damage buff. I believe Legendary Mechs got a 50% HP buff, or was it 100%? I don't remember. Someone couldn't tell me. But what I'm trying to say is the weapons got 50% more. 50% more buff than the mechs did. And what that did was it further reinstated the excessive damage meta. So 140%? No, it was a round number. For Legendary, it was a round number, I know that. So it was either 100% for mech HP or it was 50% for mech HP. I'm like 90% certain on that. It was one of those two. But yeah, a lot of people don't know about that, or if they did, they forgot about it. And really what that did is it actually made the mod update worse. We'll talk about that when we get there, but like, they would not have had to make mods so freaking strong if they did not make the damage meta worse than it already was with the Great Update, but they did. And that's one of the things that pissed me off the most about it. And I felt like nobody really gave it the attention that it deserved. So yeah, Great Update, no likey, not a big fan. Free for all. A lot of people liked it. I feel like it was a rather like it didn't really make a difference. Like, some people enjoyed it, some people hated it. I felt like most of the people who had the free-for-all meta were the ones that enjoyed it, and that was basically it. Everybody else was getting clowned on. And yeah, no, I'm into me. It's just like it didn't really need to exist, but I guess it's okay that it does. Like, it's better that it exists than for it to not exist, but I would like really, really like for it to be a custom game mode, because that would be nice. The fact that, like, you know, you have to play it in order to do certain tournament weeks is kind of annoying, but, you know, 5v5 was also annoying. I think between the two, I probably like free-for-all more than 5v5, to be honest. Not by a lot, though. This game has always been higher in damage since pilots, mainly to make matches quicker. They don't want to slow down the pace, but they weren't slowing down the pace, right? The pace was always fast. The pace was fast. Matches would more often than not end with one team meching out the other before the timer even came close to ending. So almost, and I'm talking about control point mode. I'm talking about CPC, which is an objective-based mode where kills are not the highest priority. Most of the time, you'd win by kills anyway. Most of the time. And then they made pilots, which made that even worse. And then they did the grade update, which made that even worse. And there was no precedent for either of those. And I rather refuse to believe that there ever was a precedent. Because here we are with mods, and it's still basically the same thing. Most matches end before the timer runs out or before the influence accumulates. Most matches end with kills. Or at least half. And, you know, for an objective-based game mode where kills should not be the primary goal, or where, you know, winning based on kills should not be the primary way of winning. Like an objective-based game mode where... Well, for an objective-based game mode, I should say, let me rephrase. I think the primary way of winning should be with the objective, because that's what you're playing the game mode for. And so if you're winning based on just raw kills, raw damage alone, like even 30% of the time, I think that's even possibly too much. I think that should be a possibility. Yeah, it's great to have a possibility of killing everybody. But the fact that that's like basically like it's the main way of winning. And a lot of times you might say, well, you know, like when I win, the influence is basically at 100, or sometimes I win by 100. A lot of times that you actually win by 100 is because you're meching out the enemy. They're losing mechs, and as a result, you grab more beacons because there's less enemies on the field. So even in quite a lot of the instances where you win by influence, you technically only won because the enemies were running out of mechs, and not because you actually had beacon, like just not because you know, tactically gained beacon advantage, just because you killed everybody and that's it. Do you really like the high damage, fast paced gameplay? Sure, that's fine. But keep in mind the problem that I have with all of this. The problem that I have with all of this is the pilots stacked so much damage. They increase your damage by 100% versus the 40% that they boost your HP, right? So already you see, well, you know, after the pilots update, hold on, this is disproportionately adding to the damage more than the HP. And then when you have the grade update, it goes even further. The HP of all the legendary mechs and stuff, that gets buffed, but the damage of legendary weapons gets buffed by even more. And so that creates a problem that requires a solution, and that is the reason we have mods. A lot of people, I mean, mods make sense as a feature, just like pilots make sense as a feature. So I'm not complaining about mods as a feature, but a lot of people don't like the way that mods are made. They don't like how strong they are. They don't agree with a lot of the details behind it. And I agree. They wouldn't have to be the way that they are if it wasn't so egregious in terms of the damage meta. So they stacked damage buff after damage buff, and then they created a solution to it. But in order to tone it down to basically where it was, they had to make mods super, super strong. And a lot of people didn't like that. They were all happy, they were all fine with all the damage buffs. But then as soon as it came to the, you know, to anything different, they they weren't really ready for it. Too much of something good, too fast paced. Well, I mean, yeah. I personally don't. I don't personally love the super fast pace. Like, I prefer it to be a little bit slower. But I will say, you know, it was one way. And hold on, my stream's kind of buffering a bit. Is that just me or is that everybody? It's annoying. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, essentially what I'm saying is, like, you know, regardless of what you like, there's just, you know, you keep stacking damage. You too? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. So let me repeat that again, because a lot of people probably didn't hear it. But essentially what I'm saying is, like, I didn't personally like the damage meta. I never have. And anyone who's been following me for a while, they know that. I've spoken against it for quite a while. But that's fine. I'm not going to say that damage meta is bad or that super fast pace is bad, but I'm also not going to concede to your you know, presupposition that it is a good thing. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing that exists, you know, and you know, that's just the way that the game is. But my problem was the fact that they were so egregiously stacking to the damage meta over and over and over and over again, creating a problem that didn't really exist, and it didn't need to exist. They could have made pilots equally buff damage and HP. They could have made implants be a relatively neutral factor in terms of damage and survivability. And the same thing goes with the grade update. They could have buffed everything by the same percentage, but they didn't. They stacked damage on both of them. They did disproportionately stack damage on both of them by a large margin, I might add. And so that created a problem. But anyway, what was I talking about? I was talking about free-for-all. Free-for-all... Yeah, no, I mean, there's not really much to say. There's not really much to say about free-for-all, to be honest. Like, they didn't change much. They just added a couple of maps that, like, some of them are kind of interesting. I didn't really love it, but I didn't really hate it, to be honest. All right, next one was the Gear Hub. I think a lot of people were saying that they didn't like it. I'm going to put it in A. I think it's better that the Gear Hub exists than for the Progress Path to exist, because they weren't adding anything to the Progress Path, right? So at very least, the Gear Hub ensured that, you know, even people who were willing to spend money, I don't know if you guys know this, but, like, even people who had money and they were willing to spend it, they had to wait until a random offer popped up to be able to get the thing that they wanted. At least now they can just get it directly from the Gear Hub. But the Gear Hub also, you know, there's the downside of the fact that it requires you to buy a certain number of things from each tier in order to progress to the next one. I don't necessarily think that's a bad system, but I do think, like, it's purposely, intentionally, like, stalling your progress to make sure that you don't, like, get too far too fast, which I think kind of makes sense. Like, from a game design perspective, you don't want to just, like, throw someone into the deep end where it's just like, okay, you know, now here you've been playing for 2 weeks, now you have a maxed out account. Like, how long you realistically, how long are you going to play? Most people play this game for the grind, and if they didn't have any type of goal in mind, they would just get bored of it and leave. I'm making a general statement based on pretty much zero evidence, so, like, don't quote me on that, and maybe you disagree, but, like, I get the impression that most people, just based on the way that people talk and based on the way that they act, I would say that most players would get bored very, very quickly if there was nothing to actually work toward. If they had a maxed account with everything they ever wanted, they'd have a lot of fun with it for like a month, and then they'd be like, well, now what? You know, it's like, there's kind of no reason to keep playing. You want to see freaking Lancers rank 6 on your matches with rocket mortars? Why not? It's kind of funny. All right. But another thing that actually, what actually happened with the Gear Hub as well, that a lot of people don't know about. Some people do, and I feel it's talked about more than the grade update. But the prices were actually a little bit cheaper before the Gear Hub. So a legendary mech costs what? Right now, 8,000. No, that's for 9,000. 9,375 acoins for a legendary mech. It used to be 7,500. It used to be 7,500 for a legendary mech in the progress path. That's what it used to be. And now it's what? Nearly 1,900 more expensive, which is like, I don't know what percentage that is off the top of my head. It's almost a quarter. That's like between 20 and 25%. So it's a lot more expensive. And I don't know why they did that. It's not like they gave a lot of Acoins for any reason. Outside of like maybe all of the playoffs, but the playoffs don't really count. The playoffs are just like, oh, here's 10,000 Acoins to whoever spends the most money within 2 weeks. That's all the playoffs are. I agree with your theory of having goals for players without a carrot stick. Current type players are in most games get too bored. Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm not gonna sit here saying like, oh yeah, it's great that they make it take 17 years for people to get one mech in this game. I'm not gonna say that. But it's good to not allow people to just get whatever they want within like a week. It's exactly 25%. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, no, like, you know, if there's nothing, like, if upgrades are too easy and buying things is too easy, then you're just like, you're gonna get bored. You'll have fun with it. I think a lot of people think about it in terms of, I've been trying to get this thing for so long and it would be great to just have it. But if they just had it from the very beginning, they would be bored of it. And if you gave it to them right now, like if you gave somebody an account, like, I know you're not supposed to do that, but like, let's just say theoretically, somebody just like had an account, was given an account that had literally every item, all of it maxed, they would get so bored so quick. Even myself on my main account, like, I don't want to max out most of my weapons, mostly because it's not super cost effective, but also because like, I kind of want something to do later, you know? Like, I've focused rather minimally on my late game super meta sweaty hanger. And part of the reason is because I want to be able to improve it, because it's nice to be able to upgrade stuff, to be able to improve it in one way or another. So, like, yes, I have the mod parts necessary to just buy a bunch of mods and absolutely deck out my meta hanger, but I don't want to. I'd rather have something that I've actually, like, some type of long-term goal, because otherwise I'd just get bored. Not that I use my meta hanger a lot, but just as an example. I used to use it a lot, but just as an example. And, yeah, so I max out my mods on basically nothing. Just because it's nice to be able to think like, oh, you know, at some point in the future, I'll be able to max this out. And for some things I do, but for the most part, I don't. And same thing with implants. I have most of my implants. I've been getting a lot of legendary implants, but most of them are ranked level 5. And I just, like, I'm not worried too much about maxing out the ones that I use a lot. Yeah, there's quite a few that I use a lot, and I could max them out, but it's just nice to be able to have something that you can do later. It's like, to some degree, I'm even like purposely not focusing on the stuff that I would use a lot, just because like I knew that I could do it later and it'd be cool. They need to find the right way to balance, because right now a new mech takes way too long. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not arguing that. That's part of the reason why I liked the price change so much. It's because it tells me, yeah, they're actually looking at the prices now. You know? Like, people are complaining about it because of this, that, and the other thing. Oh, boo-hoo. I get 600 less A coins in my daily login thing, like as if that's going to kill you forever. Like, it doesn't matter that much. In the grand scheme of things, it's better to have stuff cheaper. And you could find downsides to anything. If you try hard enough, you could find a downside to anything. But, like, you don't need to, right? Like, do you want it to be cheaper or don't you? I think what a lot of people secretly want, like if you ask them what they want, they actually don't want the game to change. What they want is for them to be given a free like 30,000 A coins and it just be them. Because if you improve the game in any way for new players, they will be so upset that new players are having it easier than they did. Which is like, what kind of mentality is that? Like, do you want the game to get better or not? If they're going to make the game better, they're probably going to start with new players. Right? That's the best way to see, because new players are the most likely players to leave. I would bet. Players have been playing for 3 years. They'll probably stick it out, regardless of what happens, because they've already been here for 3 years. Unless you do something drastic. But, you know, new players are the players with the least amount of experience, and they're the most likely to leave. So by kind of experimenting on new players, they're doing that right now, actually, the daily login thing. There's a derby for Killshot, rank 4, which is ridiculous. Rank 4 Killshot derby for new players, along with Disc Launcher 8 right after that. Which is really, it's part of like a three-way ABC test for new players. Like, some people are still getting the Arachnos and Stasis Beam. Some people are getting Arachnos and EM Rifle 8. Some people are getting Killshot and Disc Launcher. But, yeah, essentially, you know, if they're going to try to improve it, they're going to just do it to new players, because it's the quickest way to see if what they're doing is effective. It really is. And also, they don't, like, they know that you want the prices to be cheaper, but they don't want the prices to be cheaper because that makes them less money. So I think what they're doing right now, if I had to guess, like if I just had to guess, don't quote me on it or anything, but I think what they're doing right now is I think they're trying to figure out exactly how much they can lower it by to make people happy while still not lowering it by a ton. My estimation currently is that legendary, like, based on the pattern, you might expect legendary mechs to be like 30 to 50% cheaper. Like, maybe 30 to 40% cheaper if they do reduce their costs, which would be great. I think a lot of people would love that. But if they get a lot of negative feedback about it, maybe they're just like, screw it. We'll just keep it expensive. If Disc Launcher wasn't nerfed, would it still be meta? Absolutely not. Mods killed Disc Launcher, the nerf didn't. Disc Launcher was still strong before mods. They nerfed it, and then we'll talk about that when we get there. Yeah. Okay. The redesign was another big one. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. I think the majority of people liked it because at the end of the day, if you really liked the old design, they still give you, like, all of the old skins still look the same. They even give you the option to use the old classic paint job. So I don't think it was really a downside to anybody. I think it was just, more, a little bit cooler to a lot of people. I'll put that in A just because I personally liked it a lot. But I don't think it didn't really make an impact. Like, at the end of the day, like, they could have just not done it and nobody would have cared. Just looking at what they've already reduced, I'm guessing it'll look something like 50% less for Epic, 20 to 25 for Legendary. Why do you say that? Well, I'm assuming you say it because it's like you're assuming like a curved reduction, and we only really have 3 data points. So it could be curved upward, but it also could be rather linear, right? It could be that they reduce basically each grade by like 10%-ish. Or it could be that they reduce it by less and less. 20 to 25% is actually still good, though, because I think a lot of people agree that 30% is like the sweet spot. In fact, I had a post. Let's see. Like, drag this in here. I had a post. Oop. Right here. The majority of people said 50%. Right? But I would wager that, that's like 60%. And then 22% said 30. I think that would still make most people happy. Like, a lot of people, like, ideally, it would be 50%. Actually, if you ask me, ideally it would be 70%. Because my personal belief is that a legendary mech should not cost more than $30. But that's my ideal. But, like, is that the least I'm willing to settle for? No, absolutely not. I'd be willing to settle for 30% cheaper. 30% cheaper would be huge. Like 6,000 A coins for a legendary mech. Sure, good stuff. But yeah, like, I'd be happier. I'd be significantly happier if they reduced it by 20 to 30%. So, yeah, I mean, in either case, I think it would be good. I don't think that they'd reduce it by like a really, really small, like 10%. I think it's going to be more than 10%, probably less than 50, almost definitely less than 50. Somewhere between 10 and 50 is basically my best guess. But I do think that they're going to reduce it. Me and Scape were just talking about this, like literally minutes before the stream. I do think that they're going to reduce it. And part of the reason I think that they're going to reduce it is because players can progress so quickly from tier 1 to tier 4 or even tier 5. They can get to tier 5 in like probably a couple days. With the way that it's changed, they could get there in like probably a couple days. And that's really fast. For them to then hit an immediate brick wall with all the epic and legendary stuff that they just can't get because it's so much more expensive. I think new players who don't know anything about the game, like existing players, they're going to call it a scam, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Fun fact for the video that I uploaded earlier today, I went on a pretty long rant about the people who are complaining about the price change, because there's a lot of people who've been complaining about it, saying that it's actually a bad thing because it slows down player progression, as if for whatever reason, you and your abstract idea of, late game whatever, like that, you don't need to enforce that on people. Like, I think anyone who thinks that the price change was a bad thing purely from the stance of progression isn't thinking as a new player. They're thinking as a player who's been playing for forever and they just want to get the best stuff. Like, you shouldn't, the game shouldn't be forcing people to min-max, you know, be super adamant about progressing in a super hyper meta fashion. They shouldn't be forcing players to do that. They should give them more freedom. I think making stuff cheaper gives them more freedom because they can upgrade whatever they want, and they can buy whatever they want, and they can do it for very cheap. At least in the first few tiers. After that, not so much. But that's kind of where we have a problem. And that's also why I think that they're going to reduce it eventually. Because they're going to see, even if they didn't want to, I think that they want to. But even if they didn't want to, I think that they would have to. Because they'd see that players are hitting that, new players who don't know anything about the game. Again, they're coming in, they're playing the game, they're having fun, and then they hit that brick wall in like tier 5, and then they're just like, yeah, forget it. I think that's what would happen. I don't think it would be sustainable. Anyway, Aegis buff is the next one. I don't know. It turned... It did several things. It did several things. And by Aegis buff, I mean the Aegis rework. What happened was Aegis's dome used to be indestructible, same as Panther. Except you couldn't shoot, like you or your allies could not shoot through it. So enemies couldn't shoot inside, you couldn't shoot outside or inside or anything. It was an absolute wall against all damage from all sources. And I'm not gonna lie, back then Aegis was my favorite mech because I think it took a lot of skill to operate back then. And then they kind of removed a lot of the skill from it, and while simultaneously making it like one of the most meta broken mechs. But at the same time, it kind of was one of the more interesting metas. Like it can't just be me. It can't just be me who thinks the Aegis meta was actually like not that bad. Like of all the different metas that the game has had, the Aegis one was not that bad. Like it was super strong, but like there was still counters to it. There was still Seeker, there was still Surge, there's still Nomad. You thought this would affect Epic too? Why would you think that? This specifically said that it wouldn't. I mean, you should really just read stuff. I don't want to be mean, but the best way to avoid misinformation is to actually like read the information first. Your PFP on Discord has the redesign. I don't know what you're talking about. But no, I mean they did specifically say that it was not. It's only going to affect the common, uncommon, and rare stuff. Like, there's somebody else in Discord who pinged me. They were like, I didn't realize that it was gonna affect the upgrade costs too. I shouldn't have upgraded this. It was like, well, if you read it, you would have known that because it specifically says. So, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like it's not really my fault that you didn't read it. But yeah, in terms of the Aegis buff, I'm gonna put it in B because I don't think it was particularly good, but I don't think it was particularly bad. I didn't mind the Aegis meta, but I guess that's maybe just because I'm more of a tank guy and I already kind of liked Aegis from the start. So maybe it is just me, but I think some people liked it, some people disliked it. It didn't really upset a whole lot. Well, it was definitely different. It was enough to where I put it in this list. Okay, so then the weapon rebalance. So this included, I'm just gonna put it here for now. This included the disc launcher nerf, which they nerfed by a lot, and then the arc torrent nerf, which they also nerfed by a rather sizable margin. Was the disc launcher but it needed to be... I think Disc Launcher was too meta, but as I said earlier, mods are what killed Disc Launcher. It was not the nerf. So they literally, and because mods released like not even a month after they nerfed it, they literally could have just not nerfed Disc Launcher and let the mods deal with it naturally. That's what they should have done. It would have made people significantly less angry at Plarium because it seemed really... It was unnecessary. It seemed unnecessary because it was unnecessary. They should have just left it meta for a while longer. That's my take. The Arc Torrent nerf, completely unnecessary. Arc Torrent wasn't even strong. Like, it was not a meta weapon back then when they nerfed it. A lot of people did think they thought it was strong. It was good, but it wasn't like meta. And I mean, it was an epic weapon, so yeah, you know, it being good but not meta is probably the best place for an epic weapon to be. But then they nerfed it and made it kind of garbage. I don't know why they did that. But then simultaneously, they also buffed Nade Launcher, Cryo Launcher, the damage by a small amount. I think 12%-ish? Maybe 18, I don't remember. They buffed Minigun damage by a little bit. That didn't really change anything. I think Minigun would have been meta after mods anyway. And then they buffed Chain Gun by a lot, but it's still crap. So... it's mostly like, you know, the small nerfs to these weapons that weren't very good versus these small buffs to these weapons that still aren't very good. So it's like, I'm gonna leave it in B because it's like, there's some pros to it, there's some cons to it, but like, yeah, at the end of the day, it didn't really... A lot of it was kind of unnecessary. Both of the nerfs, I think, were totally unnecessary. They could have just not done that, and people would have been happier. Like, I was all for the Disc Launcher nerf, but then for them to release mods right afterwards was dumb. Like, at very least, they should have seen, like, okay, how do these weapons perform after mods before we nerf them or before we buff them? Because things change a lot after updates like that. Like, you should at least see what it looks like first. Clearly, they already, you know, had that stuff planned. So, yeah, it's just weird. Right. Onslaught, the PvE. I'm gonna say C. Technically, it's a net positive because it's like there's no downside to it existing, but it was such a bad release that I can't even put it in a positive. Like, I can't even put it in a neutral rating, much less positive. The way that they implemented it is it's so bad. I never thought PvE was a mode that should have existed anyway, because it takes players actively out of PvP matches, and there's few enough of those as it is. But the rewards are crap. It forces you to buy all kinds of stuff. Fun fact, the latest one was the worst one out of all of them, even though it had the best skin, which is sad. The Gatecrasher skin. It's very cool, but it required that you buy all kinds of Acoin-based items, and it gave you like nothing in return. It was really, and I don't just mean Acoin-based items. I mean Acoin-based items that nobody should ever buy because they're just bad items. And yeah, it was bad. I didn't like it. So the latest one that they did was not very good. I think, I don't know what they plan on doing with that in the future, but I really hope that they make better ones. The idea of it was okay. I think most people would have preferred a boss mode because that's what everybody was like hyping themselves up over. But ultimately, it was just kind of a letdown, and it wasn't even very difficult either. I do kind of feel like maybe they should like have an interesting idea would be like maybe multiple difficulty levels to let people get through it easier if they just want the stuff. But then like the leaderboard would just be like the times from the highest difficulty level, right? So like if you want to grind the leaderboard, you have to do it really difficult. I don't know. I think it'd be more interesting because it's too hard for people who have really low rank stuff, and it's too easy for people who have max stuff. So I don't know. But ultimately, it's honestly, I think it's kind of a crap feature. Promo codes, I mean, they don't make a lot of promo codes. I feel like it would have been an S if there was like reliability to it, but there's not. I've suggested that they do like, you know, some type of like monthly recurring promo code of some kind, just because people like to have something to kind of rely on, even if it doesn't give the same thing every time. It's just something to get excited about, right? Something that you know is coming is something to get excited about. If you have no idea when it's coming, then you're not going to be excited about it. Maybe you are, like, maybe you get excited about it when you hear about it, but you don't know it's coming before then. And it's super unreliable. They just kind of make codes when they make them, and whatever happens, happens. Most of the time, the codes are just for new players, and that's also kind of, like, not great. And also, bro, the addiction that has occurred in the global chat ever since promo codes, I'll tell you. It's like an addict looking for their next fix. I'm not even lying. When's your new free-to-play hanger video dropping? Still spending resources on suggestions from your old one? I think you mean Gear Hub video? That'll be pretty soon. Within the next week, I'd guess. But yeah. No, I think it would have been an S. I think I would have given it an S if they made it more reliable. But it's just like they just kind of do it whenever they feel like, if they feel like. Which is kind of annoying. Mods. A lot of people would, I'm not going to say most people. A lot of people would put it in F. I'm going to put it in C. I think most people would put it in C. Because it was a fine idea. It was a good idea with bad execution, as almost all of their updates are. It's basically like, if you could summarize Mech Arena updates in one phrase, it would be good idea, bad execution. That's what I would say. Because mods as a feature made sense. I knew that they were coming for years, and I had been telling people for literally years, ever since pilots came out, I was like, mods are a natural next step. I played War Robots. I knew it was coming. Every mech game has modules of some type. They do. All of them do. And so I absolutely knew that it was coming. But the way that they made them was, let's say, atrocious. for lack of better words, let's say atrocious. And mod parts are like, essentially mod parts are just a pay-to-win thing. Like, mods are basically a pay-to-win feature because you can't get mod parts as a free-to-play player. It basically can't. It doesn't happen. The only way that you can get them is from the weekly tasks, and they give you crap. Like, they don't give you anything. And that's the only way that you can get it, is from the weekly tasks. It's ridiculous. Should you complete the Disc Launcher 8 Derby event? As opposed to what? Not completing it and getting compensated? Like, you're not going to get compensated. Isn't it just, like, objectively better to get it if you can, and then, like, if you can't, then don't? Like, having it is better than not having it, first off, and second off, doesn't it give you tier stars for tier 6? It's a free 4 tier stars. Unless it requires that you buy, like, spend a bunch of A coins or something on it. I think it's probably worth it. Alright, and then what do we just do? Mods, yeah. Okay. Going back to, like, what I said about pilots, they should have done the same thing with mods. I liked the fact that in the A slot, the slot A for mods, you had two major options, I should say. Actually, no, 4 options. Oh no, I'm talking about 4. You had 4 options. You had the solid perimeter, the solid blockade, the perimeter multilayer, and the blockade multilayer. And you know, the perimeter multilayer just happened to be the strongest one. I don't think that they necessarily planned that, because it also happened to be the cheapest one, and if they planned it, they definitely would not have done that. They wouldn't have made it the cheapest one. But essentially, like, one of them just happened to just, like, super dominate, mostly because of close quarters, mostly because of Revoker, the back damage thing, and also because of radius weapons. But if they balanced it better, having multiple options is nice. It's cool. It's a nice idea. The concept of it, like, even ignoring the fatal flaws to certain extents, the concept of it was fine, and they should have done that to all the other slots as well, but they didn't. You have one option for slot B, you have one option for slot C, you have one option for slot D, and it's just like, oh, what do you put there? The good one or the bad one? That's the extent of your options, and that's very much reflects the kind of situation that you have with pilots, where it's like, which implants do I equip, the good ones or the bad ones? Like, there's no I prefer these implants. It's just, I have these implants that happen to be worse, so I'm just going to use them. Like, there's good builds and there's bad builds. There's really no nuance to it. And that's irritating. And the same thing happens with mods, where it's like there's good ones and there's bad ones, there's better ones and there's worse ones. Expensive ones and cheap ones, but there's no, like, I prefer to use my whatever mech with this mod. Like, no, it's like you're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong, and that's it very much goes against what I think the game should be, which is customizable. I mean, they market themselves as customizable, but they're not really. And that's why I say, like, you know, this game doesn't have variety. You know, in terms of top meta, like, if you want a top meta hanger, there's, like, 4 variations. Like, maybe... okay, I'll be generous and I'll say that there's, like, maybe 10 to 12 different variations, but 4 of the builds stay almost literally the exact same. 4 of the builds are completely static, and then there's just one that you can use depending on what you feel like using. But for the most part, you don't actually have options. You're either using a better hanger or you're using a worse hanger, and people's playstyle and preferences don't matter, because the stuff that works well just works so much better that it doesn't matter how good of a player you are. You're going to do better with it always. Better take a good deal from the shop for lower star mega weapon, or wait for this stage to open, or buy higher level at the same. It depends. If you buy it from an offer, you're gonna have to spend credits and A-coins on it anyway, obviously. But you can do that over an extended period of time, and you also probably you should have to spend less, like a sizable portion less, and most of the cost goes into credits. So if you normally spend A-coins on something, then you can instead get it at low rank. Spend mostly credits. You'd still have to spend some A-coins for rank ups, but mostly you'd end up spending credits. And so essentially you kind of get it for cheaper. But if you're just a generally lower SP player, and by lower I mean like anything below max level, really, then, you know, having even a rank 3, a rank 4, a rank 5 mech is fine. You could still use it perfectly well. And you wouldn't have to upgrade it immediately, or you wouldn't have to wait until you have the blueprints for it to upgrade it. And then if you wait, then obviously, you know, you don't have to wait for all the blueprints. Because if you end up having to buy the blueprints with A-coins, then I don't think it's really... I think it's less cost effective that way. If you want to go meta, just buy low star. As long as you're not already maxed, yeah. Like, if you're willing to take the time to, like, wait and upgrade it slowly, yeah. But like I said, like, if you would otherwise just be spending A-coins to buy the blueprints anyway, then get it higher rank, because otherwise it's less cost effective if you're buying the A-coins, or buying the blueprints. Pilot rework is S tier. Honestly, the only thing that wasn't so great about the pilot rework was the fact that they changed the pilots to, for whatever reason, instead of having 40% general damage and then 30% innate, it's now just like full 70%. I'm talking about max legendary pilots, of course. It's now just like a full 70% innate damage. So now if you use, I don't know, a missile weapon on an assault pilot, you get no damage bonus from it. Which is like, I found that a bit unnecessary and uncalled for, but in all other aspects, it was great, because along with the pilot rework, there was the implant rework, obviously, where you could take the implants off of your pilots for free, as opposed to having to spend, I think 4,000 A-coins is what it would require you to spend to take a max legendary implant off of a pilot. 4,000 A-coins. Stupid. And yeah, so now you can just remove them for free. They made the upgrading a little bit easier. You can get a bunch of implants now from like the implant shop. They added that. And you can get a bunch of what used to be super, super hard to get implants, like Orion Shield Piercing, Guardian System Crash Range. Those are nice implants to have, specifically the Orion one. The Guardians one's a little less relevant now, but yeah, and then there's even some for credits. Like if you want to get a bunch of implant parts, the best way to do it is actually just to buy legendary implants with credits in the shop and then just scrap them. It's like the most cost-effective way of doing it. And you can get quite a bit for honestly not that much. And so that was really nice. That was kind of long overdue, I'm not gonna lie. Thought we were doing live Mech tier list. What do you mean? As in, like, I stare, like, you tell me where to put it? Like, nah, the last time we did a thing where it was, like, ranking it based on what the audience told me, we ended up putting, like, was it autocannon in S tier? I think either everybody was kind of on the same page and trying to just like troll, or somebody had like a bunch of different accounts. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest. Mods update deserves F tier. I was waiting for somebody to say that. The mods rework, that is F tier. Absolutely. There's literally no reason for it to happen. A lot of people it didn't even affect, so some people might not even know. But essentially at one point they decided, okay, mods are now a thing that new players who hadn't unlocked mods at the time, new players can only equip mods on rank 6 mechs. Which is like why? Why? Anybody who already had mods at the time it shouldn't have affected you at all. So, like, a lot of people probably didn't even notice. But I think I made a video about it. I made a post about it, probably. But it's like the most like brain dead, like, why in the world was this even necessary update that I've ever seen? Like, why? I don't even understand like a theoretical benefit. Like, I can't even think about it in terms of what does Plarium, like, how is this going to make Plarium more money? I can't even think about it that way. Because I was like, how would it make Plarium more money? Now, new players can't buy mods? Mods are stupid expensive. They would have made more sales by allowing new players to buy mods. And that's just a fact. But, I don't know. It was, nah, they were not cooking with that one, I'll tell you. It's the most anti-new player update ever. Yeah. I mean, like, give it, like, 6 months or a year or whatever. I don't know how long it's been, but I still find players who have mods that are rather low SP, even though, like, it's been that way for a while. I don't know. But, I mean, like, over time, it'll even out to where it's, like, you know, unless someone's tanking, all of the new players, like, none of the new players will have mods. It really did mess with people it really did mess with people who like newly joined the game right after they changed it, because then everyone had mods except for them, and that's what made it super, super unfair. Not that it was like fair in general, like it didn't make any sense, the entire thing. Someone in Plarium tripped over a wire for F. I don't think I have that much space. I think everybody, I think I used to put labels on all of them when I made the tier list videos, because I was very adamant about like people understanding exactly what I meant when I put something in one tier over another. But I think that tier lists, for one thing, are mostly just like people are just gonna like just go by whatever they feel like doing. Because like even if it doesn't make sense to put something in S, they'd just be like, well, I liked it, so I think it should be in S. And people didn't really pay attention to the labels anyway, so yeah, it's kind of pointless. Most people who, you know, most people who have common sense know roughly what, like, they know the difference between an S and A, right? Also, yes, I'll listen to you. You made two new accounts this month. You still face players with mods on them. Yeah, it's because most people don't know how to progress very fast. You've asked this like 4 times. Is it worth ranking up Mimicker to rank 5 to put Minigun 12? I have no idea. Because, I mean, to find worth it, you know that Mimicker's not a meta mech, or at least you should. You should know that Mimicker's not a meta mech. Not only do I have no context for the rest of your hanger, but also, like, it's not an objectively meta thing to go for, so I really couldn't tell you if it's going to be good or not. You might absolutely regret it, but it also might be the best decision of your life. I have no idea. Like, just do whatever you feel like, honestly. You want EM rifles to be back into the meta so bad. I am so glad that they weren't. Because people... It was... I disliked the sniper meta. Mostly because any tiny amount of lag meant that you just lost. And a lot of people would actually purposely spike their internet to create lag so that they could get easier kills with the EM rifle. I know multiple people who did that competitively. That they would do that competitively. It was the stupidest, most petty thing ever. And I also don't think that I just didn't think it was a good experience. Like I don't think it was a good experience for players to have, especially on a mobile game where you know, some people are playing on mobile, some people are playing on PC. There's now the minimal aim for mobile, and that's great. I'm glad that that exists. But PC players will always just have a general aiming advantage. So in general, even though I play on PC, I would rather the meta be something that doesn't require super, super precise aiming. Because PC players will always have a massive edge over that. They already have an advantage just because like PC is just better than mobile, but you know, the more you accentuate, the more you reward good aim, the more you reward PC players over mobile players. The sniper meta was boring. It was one shot and you were out. You couldn't poke anywhere. That is very true, yeah. And the only way to counter it was just to radius the other people. It was basically just you hiding behind a wall, waiting for someone to move so that you could just one-shot them. I didn't like it personally. I know a lot of people did, but I didn't personally like it. It was satisfying to snipe people, but I think satisfying is different from entertaining. Mods kind of completely killed snipers. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Mods was, as I said, good idea, bad execution. Like very bad execution. The multi-layered mods went way too far. I'm not even gonna attempt to argue that. Should you upgrade Tengu to 5 stars because it's dirt cheap? It's up to you. I made a video. So if you watched that, you probably already know all my thoughts on it. Like, it's really nothing more that I've been, like, you know, holding out from the video. Specifically, I definitely didn't intentionally take anything from the video And you know this because the video is like 7 minutes long. I tried to think of anything valuable that I could add to get it to like 8 minutes so I could get the mid-roll ad revenue. But no, it wasn't to be, so I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to extend it for the sake of extending it. But I would have. What did I just do? This one? Yeah. All right, loyalty program, the thing where, I mean, we've only really seen it one time. The loyalty program, a lot of people have asked about it ever since that update. It's the thing where instead of the gold crate at the end of the daily login thing, every 30 days, or 28 days, whatever, it's something different. The latest one was a Tengu, and I think that one ended up getting replaced with an amateur crate, which is disappointing. But they said in the update notes, this is a screenshot of the update notes, that's what this picture is. They said in the update notes that it was going to be mechs, weapons, and pilots. And I think, did they say and more? I don't remember. Mechs, weapons, pilots, and more? I think that's maybe what they said. Finally, face reveal? Wow. It must be your first time joining a stream, because I have face cam on almost all my streams. But yeah. So essentially, they just made the daily login thing like a bit better. I'm gonna put it A because it's like, yeah, net positive. Like I'm glad they did it. It's better that they did it rather than not, but at the same time, it didn't really make a big difference. We're kind of early on in the thing, so like that my opinion on it might change, but as of now it seems relatively inconsequential. Buff Tengu energy capacity again. It never got buffed in the first place. What do you mean again? Unless I didn't shave, yeah. There was only like one time that I did that though, right? A lot of times I'll just like, I'll either like take a shower and shave right before the stream, or I'll just not stream. If there's nothing like specifically. They need new epic and rare mechs and weapons. I agree. Since they made it, I used to kind of push back on that. But since they made it so dang cheap, I think that's actually, I think it's a valid take. I think it's a valid take. 3, but who's counting? Clearly you are. You do think Tengu should be buffed to 24 energy. Explain to me why without just telling me because you like it. I've made some polls before. In fact, I can bring those up right now. Let's bring this up again. Hold on, wait for it to load a little bit. Post. So I made some polls kind of a while back asking which mechs people thought should get buffed. Oh, that's not one. And the general consensus... Wow, almost everybody. It's like one of the most unanimous polls I've... Actually, nah, this is one of the most unanimous polls I got. Even though it's like 600 people voted for it, but like nobody actually watched the videos, so whatever. What? Where is it? Oh my goodness, bro. If you could buff one of these epic mechs, which one would it be? The overwhelming consensus was Redeemer, even though Redeemer's the strongest one. There was another one, if you could buff one of these rare mechs to make it legendary, which one would it be? Or even just like, if you could buff it. The overwhelming consensus was Tengu. So the general trend that I see is that most people want to buff the things that are already the strongest. And it's not because it needs a buff, it's because they like it, and they like it because it's strong, and because they like it, they want it to be stronger. So when people keep telling me they need to buff Tengu for, like, they need to buff Tengu, they need to do this, they need to do that, they need to buff Tengu, or buff Redeemer, or whatever, it's like, Tengu is already the strongest rare mech. Actually, I think Tengu is stronger than Guardian. If you're going to max out one rare mech, I would personally go with Tengu. And the notion that it should be even stronger than it already is, like, it's not a rare mech if you buff it any more than like, if it's stronger than it already is, like, it wouldn't really be a rare mech. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, like, I don't know why people keep calling for a buff for stuff that's already strong. That's basically what I'm saying. Buff Zephyr's stun back to 6 seconds? No. No. They need to reduce Surge's EMP time. I think reducing, what did they reduce? Zephyr and Bastion, or was it just Zephyr? Zephyr's was 6, they reduced it to 3. No, I think they reduced Surge and Bastion too, right? Because they were both, because Bastion was 4, and then it got reduced to 3, or maybe it was 3 and got reduced to 4, or 5 and got reduced to 4, I don't remember. And then Surge's was 5 and got reduced to 4. It's only 3 seconds, though. Surge's is 4. Oh, I know. I agree. I think that Surge should not have the longest EMP duration. In fact, well, it doesn't technically have the longest because I think it's tied with Bastion. Or am I wrong? I think Bastion has a 4-second duration at max, right? But the thing with Bastion is that you can't use a duration implant. So Surge is like, Surge can out EMP a Bastion, even though the Bastion EMP is kind of like the only thing that a Bastion has. But Surge has the dash, it has the stealth, it has everything, but it also has the longest ability duration. And you can use an ability duration implant just to make it even longer. Hemlock, am I a joke to you? The ability is, yeah. Because it's not EMP. The actual EMP duration is 2 seconds. Day's duration is like 7, or... Is it 7 base? Yeah, I think so. I think it's 7 seconds base for Hemlock. But that's Days. Days is different from EMP. It's less egregious. I do think that Hemlock's duration is still way too long, don't get me wrong, but it's, you know, you could get away with a 5-second Days duration, I'd be fine. Whereas a 5-second EMP duration is ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, so I think they should nerf Surge's EMP duration is basically what I'm saying. Because it's already way too strong. Like, it really wouldn't make it that much worse, but it would at very least make it less stupid. EMP reskin, yeah. Pretty much. Remove pay to win. I mean, sure. But, like, that's, I don't know. Doesn't seem relevant. Revoker meta is the worst. I actually disagree. I think that I will stand by that out of all the metas, as much as I complained about the sniper meta, the sniper meta was probably my well, not my favorite. It was my favorite after the Great Update. My favorite meta was the Arc Torrent meta before the Great Update, when you could use, like, shotgun 8s on a Shadow and it would do really good. But after the Great Update, the sniper meta was not that bad comparatively, because, like, yes, no, it was stupid, don't get me wrong. But, and I wouldn't want to go back to it, but the excessive damage that was around back then meant that everything essentially had 0 HP, and most weapons could still one-shot a lot of things. So, like, you could use Voltaic RPG and still do pretty good. And a Guardian, even though it had significantly less HP than a Bastion, it kind of didn't matter because both of them would get one-shot anyway. Like, that was kind of the thing that was going on. And so, to a large extent, like, the grade update didn't really make a huge difference until Vortex came around. Vortex and Nomad were the two things that really started tanking a lot of damage, and then, you know, there started to be more of a need for things to tank damage. You're enjoying your pod gun? People are sleeping on it, bro. Pod gun is like one of... I'm not going to say underrated. I'm not going to say it's one of the most underrated weapons, because a lot of people do know it's good, but it's underrated for sure. I think not enough people realize how good it is. But anyway, yeah. Compared to like the disc launcher meta, like going back to the metas, the disc launcher meta was my least favorite because it was so stupid. The fact that it was like, you just fire disc launcher anywhere and you just deal damage. You just fire it into corners, fire it into walls, fire it just this, that, and the other place, just waiting until you see damage. Because literally you could just fire it in a direction and kill something by accident. The number of accidental kills I've gotten with disc launcher is wild. And I really, really, really did not like it. In terms of the Revoker meta, I think that a close quarters meta makes the most sense. That's kind of also why I like the Arctor one. A close quarters meta makes the most sense because in close quarters, you are in the most danger. Always. Almost every single ability will affect you close range, but most don't have very long range. So, like, just naturally, you're putting yourself at the most risk by being close up, so it should also give you the most reward. You know, it's a risk-reward trade-off. So, you know, close quarters meta is fine. The Revoker, the way that it is kind of stupid, though. I think most people can agree to that. Disc launcher meta was disgusting. Bro. I know a lot of people who enjoyed it, but I could not, dude. I couldn't. It's just, nah. I don't think Redeemer needs a buff. Just wish it spread out its effects removal more than almost everything being at max rank. Same with Sentinel Shield Regen. Yeah, nah, I agree. Actually, the main thing with Sentinel is that a generic cooldown, ability cooldown implant actually doesn't affect Sentinel. And I think if it did, it would actually make the mech pretty decent. Because you could, like, even at max, even if it's only good at max, at very least, it could be pretty good at max because it reduces the cooldown by a lot. I think the lowest cooldown time is like 4 seconds. With an implant, you could get that down to like 2.9, or something like that. 2.8. 2.82? No, I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's, basically what I'm saying is, like, it'd be like 3 seconds as opposed to 4, and it'd just be nice. They still have a radius the size of the sun. Yeah, exactly. Why did you put Storm Guardian to D? What do you mean? Oh, in the Dreamhangers thing. 'Cause it's not good. Yeah. I mean, you can use it if you want to, but like, in my semi-professional opinion, as someone who's played the game for like four-ish years, who has a late game account and has almost all the mechs maxed and has like basically all the weapons duplicated and is able to use everything at late game, I can pretty confidently tell you Stormrack and Guardian doesn't really work late game. They didn't need to nerf Arctorn that much. They didn't need to nerf Arctorn at all. I already talked about that, though. Can we please get a Mimicker video? I might, but I don't really know how I'd frame it, you know? Like, I don't want to make a video that's just like, this is a Mimicker video, you know? It seemed kind of out of nowhere, so I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I've been messing around a little bit more with Tetra Rifle on Mimicker, though. And it's a good build. I actually think it's a build a lot of people are sleeping on. I know not many people have Mimicker and not many people have Tetra Rifle, but I think it's like a really, really solid build that people don't really know exist. Anyway, the last one, price reduction update. Yes, I just think it's great. There's some negative aspects to it. Like I said before, you can think of a downside to everything. There's nothing that's ever going to be strictly, perfectly, 100% positive. You can always think of a reason to dislike something. So, like, if we're getting into the nitty-gritty, sure, like, whatever. If you really want to go there. But I think, ultimately, it's good to let people be able to buy and upgrade stuff that they want without it costing an arm and a leg, right? I don't think that buying the wrong rare mech should be something that, like, actually costs you so much of your time. Because, like, legitimately, people, like, a lot of people, they rank up their Guardian one time, and the only thing I could think of when I see a rank 4 Guardian is like, oh my goodness, the amount of credits and acorns that they wasted on this one rank up is absurd, and it probably set them back like 2 months. So, and it shouldn't be like that. They're new players. Like, they don't know any better. Let them get what they want. Let them upgrade what they want. And I don't think it's anybody's business to, like, try to force Plarium to then force players to upgrade and buy stuff in a more meta fashion. You know, like, it's stupid. You are a content creator, are you, though? Not an official one. Would you use a 20 energy Lacewing over a maxed Panther? If you have Stormwreck 10, probably, yeah. I can't think of any reason to dislike price reduction. Go to probably Reddit. You'll find people who have reasons, and they'll insist that their reason is more valid than yours. I haven't been to the subreddit in years, but I mean, it's Reddit, come on, bro. You were shocked though, for once they're not lying when they said major price reduction. Oh yeah. Oh, they were lying. Bro. It's ridiculous. I want my money back. If you look at it, if you go to the Gear Hub and then go to the Pilots tab, Major still costs 3,000 acorns. I thought it was gonna be a price reduction for Major, bro. Oh my god. I demand compensation. Every player ever. I feel like a lot of the complaints, like real talk, I actually do think a lot of the complaints are just people trying to create scenarios in which they can feel like they're entitled to compensation, because they don't actually want it to be different. They just want compensation very, very badly. They want free acorns. They're just like really hoping that somehow one of these random things that they complain about will stick and that they'll get compensation for it. I think that's a lot of times. I think that's what they want. You didn't think it applied to... It didn't. I was joking. Mech Arena Reddit is like drinking tears with how many people cry about the game. I mean, there's a lot to complain about. Let's be fair, there's a lot to complain about, but at the same time, yeah, it is Reddit, and if you like your sanity, you probably shouldn't be there. I used to use Reddit, but I can't, bro. I can't anymore. It's not good for your mental health, bro. You want free acorns too, don't lie. I mean, like, I'd take it. I'll get 420, yeah, 420 from the daily Tengu, the daily login thing in Tengu compensation on my free-to-play account. I'll get that tomorrow, and then I'll basically have enough to by Orion with that, and I'll gladly take it. I'm not going to complain about it, but I'm also not going to like try to invent scenarios in which I'm a victim just to try to claim compensation rights. I think that's pathetic. Us former Warbots players can't complain as much. That is kind of true. There is a bit of a standard that we kind of like. It's like, well, I know how bad it could be, but to be fair, we really shouldn't hold, like, that's a really, really low bar, so we really shouldn't hold Mech Arena to Warbots standards, because that's like 6 feet into the dirt. Like, the bar is that low. Out of curiosity, why didn't you like the Onslaught? As a feature, it's technically a net positive, because it's like it's better that it exists than it doesn't. But I think a lot of people are hyped about, like, what a lot of people liked about the idea of it was not the rewards. It wasn't the free stuff. It wasn't like, you know, how can we make it so that it gives us legendary mechs for 38 coins or something like that. Like, most people, like, I think they were mostly hyped about, like, the idea of a boss mode to some extent, which isn't there. And also, for most players, the Onslaught isn't even playable. You can play the first 2 levels, which actually in the latest one doesn't even give you... They don't even have rewards for the first 2 levels. So if you don't have the mech, if you don't have Gatecrasher, then you just can't play it. And you can't get any rewards for it anyway. So I think the setup was bad. I think the rewards are really bad. It costs you way more than you get in return, even after spending a bunch of time on it. Like, you spend time and you still end up and you also spend resources and you get nothing in return, essentially, except for like a skin, I guess. And it's only if you have the right things. So yeah, nah, I don't think it's what players wanted. Thank God for Frontiers, bro. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of suck at that game, so I haven't been playing it a lot. I'm kind of waiting for them to nerf the flamethrowers, in all honesty. They're so annoying. And also Siren. Like, mostly Siren. It's so obnoxious. It's like EMP. It's the EMP. It's the EMP of Frontiers. And I'm getting like Surge PTSD from it, bro. It's basically a hemlock, but whatever. You get my point. Somebody said nerf Hellfire? Who? Speaking of flamethrowers, Hellfire needs a buff. There's a lot of things that need a buff. There's a lot of things that need a buff. In fact, there's so many things that need a buff at this point that, like, I've kind of gone back on what I used to say, which was, oh, Mighty Master, by the way, take care. What I used to say was, like, you know, Surge needs a nerf, Revoker needs a nerf, this, that, and the other thing needs a nerf, because they're too strong. But I actually, at this point, I actually think that the best way to address it is just to buff the stuff that's really garbage, because there's so many things that are so bad. But if they buffed them to where they weren't so bad, then I think we might actually have some legitimate natural counters to Revoker, legitimate natural counters to Surge, to Eclipse, to all of these things. But the problem is that there's only 3 usable weapons in the entire game, because all the other ones are garbage. I'm so tired of minigun outshining every other weapon in its category. It's kind of true, but it's also completely the dev's fault. Like, it's no fault of minigun. Minigun is, like, the most solid weapon. I think it's one of the most balanced, like, most well-balanced weapons in the entire game, personally. It has obvious downsides. It has obvious benefits. It's really good in some situations and really bad in other situations. And those situations are not necessarily like super common or super uncommon. And yeah, no, I think it's just like, it's a perfect representation of what a lot of things should be. You can very easily use minigun badly and do really bad with it. But you could also use it well and do really well with it. 2v2 is the worst mode for free to play, and it's not even close. That might be true, yeah. PowerPoint? Wait, what? What's the most annoying mech end weapon? Most annoying mech is probably Hemlock. Because it just keeps you from playing the game, really. And there's kind of no reason for that. Anything with EMP, I automatically kind of dislike. Most annoying weapon. I don't know. Like, yeah, Revoker's annoying, but that's only really if you use it on the right mech. Like, some people use... I see some people using, like, Revokers on Bastion as a freaking gamer build. That's entertaining. A lot of the time, it's just the mech that makes the thing annoying. Minigun was the first and is still the best of that category. Yeah. I mean, again, I wouldn't want them to nerf Minigun, but I wish they would buff the others. Chain Gun got a Chain Gun got a 50% damage buff, and it's still garbage. You just reached 9k and the game wants me to lose? I'm getting 50% team damage, 80% captures, and still losing. That's crazy. I think if you just upgraded something, or if you just ranked up something, then yeah, I think the game is kind of experimenting with like what kind of players they should put you up against. Because you're clearly stronger, and they can't keep putting you up against the same people, probably. But they won't know if anyone's too strong unless they put you up against them, right? So they kind of have to, they kind of have to gather data, essentially. Gemini's a really annoying weapon? No, Gemini's hilarious. Gemini is one of the most entertaining weapons in the game. I can't not laugh when I see a Gemini. Blast RPG is the most annoying. Why do you say that? It's just sad. If I see a bot with Blast RPG or a player, it's like, you know, if they're unfortunate enough. But if I see anybody with Blast RPG, like, I'm chilling. I know they're not gonna kill me. I hate Stormrack because it keeps you from taking cover. Wait, you said SR? Is it Stormrack or Strike Rocket? I don't know. That's why we need to establish our acronyms here. Podgun is annoying. I mean, that's fair. Stasis Beam buff would be legendary. This is true. I think Stasis Beam is the weapon that I've complained about the most to the devs. I've stopped in recent years because it's like I know that they're not gonna buff it. But it used to be just one of those things that like I constantly brought up. I was like, how is this thing doing all of this damage? And then over here there's Stasis Beam that has like literally 5 damage per second. Like, how is this? Like, how do you allow this? Stormrack is what you say. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. All radius weapons, like radius weapons in general, are annoying. I kind of wish that they would remove the side and back damage multiplier. Because it's part of what makes radius weapons so good. I mean, radius weapons will always be good just because it's like you can hit somebody without seeing them. That's like the main benefit of a radius weapon. But the fact that you can not only do that, but also deal more damage than if you were using a different weapon is ridiculous. You keep seeing Seekers with Revokers and your hanger power is 3.2k? Yeah, I'm seeing some Revoker Seekers as well. You just gotta bait them. The thing with The thing with Seekers at low SP is that, yes, they're super strong, but they're always brain dead. They will teleport onto you the moment they have their ability, the moment so long as they can, they will, right? So what you do is you put yourself on top of you put yourself either on an incline to where you know that the game will automatically teleport them below you, or you angle yourself to where, you know, your back is like against the against a ledge, and so it just teleports them below you as opposed to above you, and then you just like kill them with let's say Stormrack or whatever it is that you have. But also just start backing up, because they'll teleport, and then by the time they teleport onto you, you'll be behind them as long as you're in something at least kind of fast. You can just back up, and then they'll teleport in front of you instead of the other way around. See, bots don't do that, but that's because bots know where you are, and they'll turn around while they're teleporting. Players can't do that. It's not a thing that players can do. So the bots cheat, obviously, but yeah, no, it's actually not that hard. Because they're, like I said, they're always brain dead. They don't know what they're doing. They're just using strong stuff. Nobody knows how to use Seeker, to be honest. It's kind of true. Revokers have taken over the game, yeah. Revoker and Stormrack count. I mean, myself personally, I actually think Stormrack... I mean, I use more Stormracks in my meta hanger than I do Revokers, to be fair. So, you know, in that regard, Stormrack's technically maybe even stronger than Revoker is, but... Revoker, it's just like the places where Revoker is strong is just so egregious that, yeah, you kind of can't ignore it. You just avoid Seekers by going into a gang of fellow bots and then run. That seems like a great way to let the Seeker farm all your bots. No, you need to kill it. The only way that you don't lose to that Seeker, because it's stupidly strong, like I said, the only way that you don't lose to it is if you kill it. You need to kill it. You need to kill it in order to win, but you can outsmart it very easily. All you have to do to get his attention is just like damage him a little bit, and then he'll come for you next. Every time. You mean if you can't kill it, but basically anything that you could possibly have could kill it. Like, unless it's like a Guardian or something with really bad weapons. I could kill it with my Podgun Aegis, with my Stormrack Redeemer, with my Revoker Zephyr. With, I mean, not my... I think I currently, at the moment, have like Javelin Racks on Arachnos, so I couldn't kill it with that, but that's pretty much the only thing I couldn't kill it with. You just gotta play smarter. So long as you know the teleporting patterns, you can get them to teleport, like I said, you can get them to teleport below you to a place that they physically can't even reach you, and even if they could, like, they don't know, like, they think that they're teleporting right onto you, so they just like waste all their ammo. I mean, if it's Revoker, it's not really wasting ammo, but it takes them a second to figure out where the heck you are. So you can do a good amount of damage to them and then just take cover before they realize what's going on. $50v50 mode would be crazy. 1v1 would be a fun addiction. I'm gonna ban you now. Everyone say goodbye to Freeman. He wins a prize for most L take of the stream. Is it possible to make them teleport off the edge? No. Yeah, bye-bye, Freeman. 1v1s are cringe. It would be fun until Hemlock. I don't think it would even be fun until Hemlock. You know, like, 2v2 is already just whoever has the better 2v2 hanger wins. 1v1 is just the same thing, but even less skill involved. "1v1 would be goated." Why? You use Surge, possibly Hemlock, possibly also Eclipse. You use one of those three, most likely two of those three, possibly all three of those. How many? You're just scared to 1v1 for me. That's crazy. They will have the same thing. Well, okay. So you basically confirmed that you had probably at least 2 of those 3. But I don't need to know what your hanger looks like. Surge, Eclipse, Deathwar, yeah. If you like 2v2 or 1v1s, or if you like the idea of a 1v1, then I know that you have a meta hanger. And the reason is because whoever wins is just the guy with the more meta hanger. The game's not that deep. Like, you realize the amount of skill difference that it takes. The amount of skill difference that it takes to win against somebody in a 1v1 situation who has a stronger hanger than you is, like, massive. They'd have to be stupid compared to you. Like, actually stupid. I've been told this by someone who played a lot of 1v1s. Like, he loved to 1v1 people. But he told me, like, if he had even, like, 1 level implant advantage, it was just GG. They may as well hand him the win. Because it's just a metagame. Now, if you have the exact same hanger, then it would be interesting, sure. That's fine. Like, if there was a preset hanger of some kind, sure. We could theorize. We know that wouldn't happen, and that's not what we were talking about originally. But, you know, theoretically, if there was like a preset, if you could, you know, there's like one hanger that both people had, and it was the exact same hanger, then it would be interesting, sure. But we both know that wouldn't happen. And yeah, no, 1v1s aren't skill-based. People with the most meta like to think that they're skill-based. Hellfire doesn't have proportional damage to the rank. I think you mean the burn damage scales with the rank. Yeah, they changed it at one point. I didn't know that they didn't. I don't think they made an update or anything. Yeah, they changed it. When it first came out, it wasn't. I remember I made a note about that. But yeah, they changed it. It ultimately was kind of a nerf, I'm not gonna lie. Because I think unless it's maxed out, the burn damage is less. So they gave a nerf to a weapon that was already really bad. Can you out-revoker the revoker? Probably not. A lot of free-to-play players think that they can, though. It's actually kind of frustrating that I have to make a video on this now. Because the number of people who think, like, oh, these guys are pay to win, so the way that I win against them is by using the same stuff that they're using. But then you end up in a situation like I just described, where it's just, even if you have the same mechs, you have lower level. So you're just at a natural disadvantage. You can't, like, you're not going to win at that point. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, like, getting Revoker as a free-to-play player is actually not all that people make it out to be. Like, at very least, Stormrack and Podgun are more important, higher priority than Revoker is. Because you're not going to out-brawl a pay-to-win guy. If they have a Nomad, what are you going to kill it with, huh? You can use meta, but it's about using it well. I have lost one single Revoker dogfight in the past 3 months. Well, you probably also had the, like, highest level stuff, or you just have Surge. I mean, Surge is just, like, whoever stuns the other guy first. Twister, you gotta... Okay, bye-bye. And I'm not saying that you don't have skill. I'm saying that specifically in a 1v1 situation, I know somebody who is very, very good at 1v1s. this is what I'm saying. I know somebody who's very, very good at 1v1s, but even he is like, in a 1v1 situation, it's literally just do your mechs and weapons naturally counter the other guy's mechs and weapons. Because if they do, then it's just GG. Because you're laser focused on one guy. There's one thing that you have to do, unless you're kind of dumb. So long as like whoever has the advantage ends up winning. And you know, if both people were perfectly like, so long as both people have the exact same hanger, then it's like pure skill based, right? That's the thing, is that 1v1s aren't skill based almost at all until it's perfectly balanced, and then when it's perfectly balanced, it's 100% skill based. But that's just my take on it. You can disagree as much as you want, but either way, 1v1 mode sounds abysmally boring. Like, I'm okay. Like, you could do a custom match against random people with as like a 1v1. Like, even if that's something that you liked doing, I think that's perfectly fine. But I think you could probably also agree that it would be really, really boring to have a 1v1 dedicated 1v1 game mode. You'd probably also agree that that would be pretty boring. Just the Tinkers would ruin 1v1 if it was added? Well, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking more of like on a max level aspect, but yeah. That's not thinking about it in terms of like free to play, whatever. You figured out a mechanic to beat Revokers. I saw that. I'm assuming it's something kind of basic. The Revengers clan used to be the best at 1v1, but did awful in other modes together, competitively. 1v1s can actually hurt you for other modes. Oh, absolutely, yeah. People who play 2v2 a lot, you can usually tell. Like if you play any other mode against them, you can usually tell that they only play 2v2. Cause yeah, no, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to focus on multiple things at the same time. They have this absolute tunnel vision, because that's just what you get by playing 1v1, 2v2 type thing. Is just like a massive tunnel vision. Just stop playing the game, he says. You're playing and your Viper Rockets are doing 180s? Oh yeah, I know. You've been... Oh no, don't worry about this game. I didn't even realize you're still here, I'm not gonna lie. You think Mimicker would benefit from a rework? Yeah. Allows you to pick its ability without having to scan a mech first. How would you do that, though? Seems kind of complicated. Anyway. You've been going for like 2 hours, and it's like at least half an hour was like me not even talking about this. It's just talking back and forth. But anyway. Yes. Going back to the price reduction thing, I think it's cool. I'm glad that, you know, at least the worst stuff is cheaper. I do genuinely think that they're going to make the epic and legendary stuff cheaper, though. Because players are just they're gonna progress to like tier 5 really, really quickly. And then they're just going to hit a wall, a progression wall. And they can't get past it. Like, it would just take forever. Like, yeah, they could get past it, but it would just take like a lot longer than they're used to. And I'm talking about like new players who haven't played the game before. And so they'd be like, what the heck is this? And they'd probably stop playing. So I think that because of that, I think the devs know that. I think the devs know that, absolutely. And I think that because of that, they're not going to... Like, I think that they would reduce the prices of epic and legendary. Potentially, they'd even do it rather soon. Because, like, yeah, they could wait, like, 6 months or a year or something before they do it. But, like, they get tons of players who are joining the game within a couple weeks getting to tier 5 because it's that easy. And then just getting bored of the grind, the sudden change in pace, they'd get bored of it and then they'd leave, and they'd lose so many players. The longer they wait to make that stuff cheaper, the more players that they lose. So I think that it's fairly possible, and it's very possible, that they reduce the prices of epic and legendary stuff by quite a bit, and relatively soon as well. So like maybe like a month or two. My guess is somebody else was saying like 20 to 25% reduction for legendary. That sounds about right, to be honest. So yeah, that's kind of what I would hedge my bets on as well. And then like 40-ish% for epic. I thought the Aegis buff was a bigger deal than you placed it. It became a CPC staple. Well, it was meta, yeah. I mean, that's what meta is. Is like everybody uses it because it's meta. It definitely did upset the game, but like, did it upset the game in a positive way or a negative way, you know? Like, it upset the meta. But like, was it a good meta or was it a bad meta? Like, that's the real problem. I'm not talking about like effectiveness. If we were going based on like how much it affected the game, then sure, I'd put it in like A or S or the other way around, depending on like which direction's which. But I'm not talking about just like how much it affected the game. I'm talking about like whether it affected the game positively or negatively. And I don't think it really did it one way or the other. So I put it in B. But that's just my personal opinion on it. You play Mech Arena? Very cool. I hate how they automatically set FPS to 30 when you start the game. I haven't really paid attention. I think on Plarium Play, all of your settings get saved between accounts? Question mark? I don't know. I think so. Redox either needs a buff or just make it cheaper, like a starter legendary is crazy. I'm not a fan of making things cheaper, and I don't think that they should... Okay, no. I should rephrase that. Because this whole repricing update was making things cheaper. No, I'm not a fan of nerfing things by making them cheaper. Because it guarantees that they'll never get a buff. I would rather Redox be good than for it to be cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather they buff Redox to make it good. I'd rather it be usable. I'd rather it be a good usable legendary mech rather than for it to be an accessible bad legendary mech. If I had to pick between those two, I would rather it be useful than for it to be cheap. Aegis was better. The only bad thing about old Aegis was bots were just like 90% of most players' experience, sadly. I guess that's true. That's true. I hadn't really experienced much of the Aegis bots, but I think a lot of people did. And a lot of people really, really hated it. So I guess a lot of people would probably place it higher than I did. You think it was a positive mostly because it made an epic mech top tier meta for CPC? That was huge at that point. Panther was already top tier, wasn't it? I mean, it was a damage meta, so... You know, the fact that Panther was, like, not very durable didn't really matter. And there was no Seeker. Well, maybe there was. But it was, you know... I think Panther was already meta at that point. I do like it when there's like at least one epic mecha weapon in the meta though, because that's just one thing. It's like it's accessible, it's easy, everybody has it, and you know if it's a top tier thing, so it's like yeah, that's nice, that's cool. You know, one thing that's not necessarily legendary to be a top tier thing. But from a balance, like realistically, it doesn't really make sense. Like legendary stuff should be the best technically. Your settings got saved to new accounts on mobile too. Okay, fair enough. So that other guy was just lying. I don't know what he's talking about. Mimicker stealth scan should give it Eclipse stealth. Should it? maybe not. It could. I do kind of agree to a Mimicker buff, but I think that would make it too much of a... I don't know. The Mimicker to me is like... It's like a really well-balanced bit of everything, and it'd be a little bit too... It'd lean a little bit too far to the stealth side if it had the Eclipse buff, or whatever. That's when they started to crank out Legendary Mechs. Yeah, no, you're right, you're right. I've always been okay with, like, 1 or 2 epic mechs being in the meta. I've always been okay with that. In reality, most of the major updates, pilots, great update, PvE, feel like totally missed potential in many ways. Said how the best updates are those that undo previous bad decisions. It's kind of true. It's kind of true, yeah. But then again, you know, when you make a game, any mistake that you make is a bad decision. You know, if the standard is a really good, perfect game, you know, if that's the standard, then, you know, just the way that you perceive a good update is just as an undoing of a bad decision rather than the creation of a good decision. And I kind of disagree, because I don't think that they undid a bad decision. I think that they created a completely separate and unique good decision. And the reason I say that is because, like, when the game first started, like in beta, mechs like Juggernaut were just as effective as mechs like Bastion. So before the Great Update, everything was equally effective, and so it made sense that everything costs the same amount. To upgrade, I mean. And obviously they did the Great Update. The Great Update is F tier, as it deserves. It was a bad update. The price reduction doesn't really undo that, but it makes more sense. Like, it's a good addition in congruence with the Great Update. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't undo anything. But the ultimate like TLDR of what you're trying to say is that most of their updates are pretty much, as I said, good idea, bad execution. Yeah. They should reduce the amount of damage Stalker takes when its ability is active. I don't think it really matters that much, because it dies really quickly to most things anyway. There's an implant for it if you really want it. If they set up its ability how Cheetah's mind work layout-wise and just push on the one you want, cooldown and duration will remain the same with the exception of activating the shield. Allowing that just stays up until it's destroyed. But we'll not be able to activate it. There should have been... So you just, like, cycle through all 4 ability types? I don't know. It seems to... I don't know. It seems very complicated. Unnecessarily complicated, I should say. Eclipse could get ability remake to getting debuff reduction rather than debuff immunity. I think, actually... I mean, like, Eclipse is really strong because of the debuff immunity, right? Everybody knows that. And that makes it just, like, unreasonably strong. But I think it's the same thing with... It's the same thing with, like, Revoker, where it's, like... I think at this point it's a better idea to just give that to more mechs rather than taking it away from the one mech that does have it. Because stuff like EMP is atrocious, right? It's so annoying. So unless you nerf EMPs entirely, like unless you nerf certain status effects entirely, then, you know, I feel like the better solution would actually just be to give that type of immunity to other stuff. And the best way I can think of doing that is by doing it in the form of like a mod that you can use. Kind of like Galvanical protects you from special damage. You get a mod that protects you from debuffs. Could be some caveats to it, like it only protects you against a couple or whatever. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying. You used the undo loosely, yeah, fair enough. How do you do EMP reduction? I guess duration reduction, I don't know. Just give everyone more A coins rather than downgrading everything else. What do you mean? So instead of making stuff cheaper, you should just get more A coins? How is there any difference to that? Outside of you want something that happens to not be rare, common, or uncommon. And A coins would immediately help you. Okay, what is the solution that you would propose? Those who have been here for a while might know where I'm going with this. In that, like, those who have been in the stream. Parasite redirection implant is low-key useless. It's actually... I actually kind of like it. Plus it goes from like 30% redirection to 60%, which is kind of crazy. Like you'll just like immediately kill people with your ability. Recently says 80% of mechs and weapons added now have debuffs, which is don't affect Eclipse at all. Oh, I agree. I know, and it's an indirect buff to Eclipse, right? But again, like, is it better to have? Is it better to lessen the effectiveness of the one thing that you have that can counter all of this really annoying effect spam, especially from like bots, whatever? Is it better to reduce the effectiveness of that? Or is it better to make it so that other mechs that aren't Eclipse can also not be as affected by all of these random status effects? I'd say it's better the other way. Mod implant that blocks EMP and breaks after being hit. Breaks after, like, basically a one-use EMP shield. It would be interesting. I'm not going to say it's the best way of doing it, because I don't know, but it would be interesting. EMP that only affects moving, not firing, or abilities. That's what I've been saying for a long time. Is that, like, EMP seemed to... Like, it made the most sense to me that EMP would just be the opposite of System Crash. System Crash keeps you from using your ability or your weapons. EMP should keep you from moving, maybe even keep you from turning, but you should still be able to use your weapons and your mech ability, right? So, like, if you had the right ability, you could still kind of counter a surge, or if the surge was right in your face, you could still shoot it. Like, it would make EMP mechs not useless. Like, they wouldn't be useless, but it would not be an insta-kill ability. Because EMP is an insta-kill ability, it really is. It's GG for you. Having a debuff that stops you from playing is stupid, yeah. Saying that at, like, more A-coins, that, like, all the A-coins they took away from events, tournament, loot rush, etc. over the years. Oh, I know. I agree. But, I mean, to me, though, it's like, okay, let's say you have two options. You can increase your... you can increase the amount of A-coins you get by 50%, or you can reduce the amount this stuff costs by 30%, or whatever the inverse ratio of that is. It's essentially the same. But I think what a lot of people actually are getting at is that they don't actually want 50% or even 100% increase to the A coins from whatever sources that they get them from. They just want 10,000 A coins in their account just added to it right now. They don't want to work for it. They don't want a higher rate. They just want A coins added to their account right now. I think that's what most players are really getting at. Because if you really think about it, it's essentially the same thing. But by reducing stuff like common by more than you reduce stuff than like rare, it kind of makes even more sense, because then you can spend even less on something like a common mech and still get max performance. You relating to your previous comment? I first said just giving people more A coins isn't smart economically. Well, it's not even from like a game economics standpoint. It's from like a does that actually benefit you standpoint, you know? Like most people would, if you could give them, if you gave them a choice between, I'm generalizing here, and maybe it's not even true, but just the way that things kind of seem. I would wager that if you gave people the choice between getting 20,000 A coins over the next, well, 20,000 extra A coins, I should say, over the next 6 months, or getting 5,000 A coins right this second, they would choose the 5,000 A coins right this second. I think most players would. Because they just can't be bothered waiting. They don't actually want to, like, they don't want an increase to their income. They just want A coins in their account. That's why a lot of people keep demanding, that's why anytime you see anything happen, anytime anything happens in the game, period, there are always people screaming for compensation. Because people are just like, they're trying to find some way that they can justify A coins being added to their account for no effort. Giving more A coins feels more rewarding. Oh, I agree. I've been saying for a long time, like they should definitely be giving people more A coins, but you know, to a large extent, like reducing the cost has the same effect, right? I mean, yes, I think what you're trying to say is, what you're trying to say is people would just be more mentally satisfied if they had a larger number in their account, even if it was effectively the same. People are just more, they're more likely to be happy. And they're more likely to, you know, at least feel accomplished if the number that they have is larger, even if, you know, like, even if proportionally it's the exact same amount, you know? And I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you. But I think that's, at the end of the day, it's not really much difference. And then there's elite mod parts. We don't talk about mod parts. Mod parts are like freaking unicorns, bro. You can't find them. I don't like to talk about mod parts because for the longest time, I was telling people when mods came out, I was telling people, like, you know, don't, like, yeah, you can't really get mod parts right now. It's really annoying, but, like, you know, don't worry about it. They're working on other ways of getting mod parts, which is what they told me. And I'm really pissed that nothing has happened with that. So, I don't know. It pisses me off. So even if they increase the A-coin income, some people would still complain? Yeah. And I can tell you exactly what they'd say. They'd say, I spent 17 hours playing tournament last month so that I could get 1,200 A-coins, and now people are getting 1,200 A-coins and they only have to spend 30 minutes. I demand compensation because I spent more time, and now other people are getting... That's the way that they'd frame it. They also themselves can get it easier. But they'll demand compensation for the benefits that they could have had earlier but didn't. It's the same thing every time. It's the same song and dance every time, and I know exactly what they'd say. You gotta go. I escape. Take care. Except Quarterly Clash. Quarterly Clash was great, but I feel like the majority of players don't participate in that because they don't know how many mod parts it's going to get them. And also, it's like, you got to participate in some like Discord event in order to get a resource that you should be able to just get in the game. It gave you a lot. It gave me a lot. How much? I think I said it was like 2,500 elite parts that I got from the Quarterly Clash when I played. I didn't even get the most amount. I think some people got like 4,000. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, that's not an in-game event. You should be able to get those from in-game events. That's not an in-game event. It's a good event. I liked it, but it's not an in-game event. The implant market was the rework, wasn't it? The pilot rework? Yes and no. Like, there was a lot that they did. So they added the implant market. They removed, they improved the, like, upgrading and whatever. It used to be that you had to spend A coins to remove an implant from your pilot. They also changed that. That was like one of the biggest things, even. But then also the implant market. But then also they changed pilots to where I think like so they changed it to where like a rank 1 pilot can only use a level 1 implant. So that was not like, you know, wasn't really a positive change, but it kind of makes sense, I guess, whatever. Like, let it be what it is, I guess. But they also changed like the innate skill, whatever. So they changed a lot to do with pilots, but yeah, the implant market including. Oh, you're talking, okay. Yeah. No, yeah. No, I'm talking about mod parts. Implant parts are fine. You can get those. No Discord, no elite parts. That's what I'm saying, bro. It's crazy. It should not be like that. Remember when mods were added? Plarium said elite mod parts would be in events. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. That's what I'd said for a long time. I was like, don't worry, guys. They're gonna add it to other stuff, and that's what they told me. And then months went by, a year went by, still literally nothing, and it kind of pissed me off. What did we do to deserve mod prices being the same as red? That's crazy. I don't know though. It's a good question. Events as in weekly events, yeah. Well, when they say events, I assume they don't mean Discord events. I assume what they mean are in-game events, because that's just, like, obviously. Maybe it's a, you know, not necessarily weekly, but, you know, regular events, things that you could rely on. Like, even if they just gave some mod parts in tournaments, that would make sense. Derby events, they had one Derby event, but Derby events aren't necessarily, like, reliable. But they make a lot of, like, you know, it's like specialization sprees and stuff. Like, if they give mod parts for that, that's fine. There's, like, the, upgrade, whatever, what are they called? I don't know, those things where it's like they, you know, they want you to spend X amount of credits, upgrade a implant or whatever, I don't know. And, yeah. But there's a lot of places that they could have added it, but they didn't add it anywhere. Like, literally to nowhere. How long ago were mods added? It was December of, not last year, but the year before, so it's been like a year and a half. Yeah, and still nothing has happened, except for Quarterly Clash, but that doesn't really count in my mind. Anyway, this has been fun. Does anyone have any last minute comments on this ranking right here? How much would it take to max out Paragon Lancer with a repricing update? Well, I did painstakingly make an entire upgrade sheet showing exactly how much it costs in terms of blueprints and credits and acorns for rank up for the new prices in comparison to the old one. And I made that sheet and I linked it to the video that I made. I put it in the description of the video that I made. I'll also put it in Discord. For the sake of argument, I'll share it here as well, because I know not everybody's in Discord, and a lot of you guys don't watch like update videos. But yeah, I mean, that took a while. It wasn't super fun, but it was worth it. It was worth it. You know, it's good because you only have to do it once, which is why I encourage everybody, if anyone knows somebody who's asking a question, share them the link to the sheet. I don't care if you give me credit for it. Just share them the link to the thing. Because it's like, don't make them have to recreate the thing that I already made. And it's in the format of the Mech Arena Master Database, so there's nothing crazy going on there. There's one person in my Discord who is kind of illiterate and can't read it, but like, whatever. I hope he's watching this stream. That'd be funny. But yeah, no, it's just like there's no reason to make it all over again. So yeah, I probably should make an updated version. Do you guys think I should make like a community? I guess I could make a community post with the sheet as well, but I almost feel like I should update it with all the new item costs as well. Nah, I probably won't bother. I promise. I probably won't bother. Well, somebody, maybe even me, somebody will probably update the Mech Arena Master Database at some point. Which, by the way, that is linked in the description of the stream. And the upgrade info only applies, the upgrade info that's in the master database only applies to epic and legendary mechs now, so just keep that in mind. Also, the purchase costs for like all the common, uncommon, and rare stuff is a bit lower, obviously, but everything else should be accurate. And I reference that very, very often. It's like if you wonder how I know a lot of random different stats, or if, like, during this stream, somebody asks, like, a random stat question, I'm like, oh, hold on, let me check, and then I just kind of stare off into somewhere, and then I pull a number out of my ass. It's probably because I'm checking the master database that I have tabbed on my second monitor. Is it worth waiting a couple months for the supposed epic and legendary price reduction? I mean, I think it's potentially worth it. I have no idea. Like, it's a risk that you'd have to take, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. I know just about it. I know just as much as you do about it. But it could be worth it. Like, you could just kind of hoard your A-coins and credits for a while. Don't spend, just grind. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it could take like 6 months, it could take a year, I have no idea. It theoretically could just never happen. Like them adding mod parts to other events. Could theoretically, you don't know, it might just never happen. But, you know, if you want to, like, wait a month, or maybe 2 months, I imagine they'll announce it. If they're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna go through with this, they'll probably announce it at some point. So, you know, like a month or two is not a bad amount of time to wait, I would guess. Yeah, I probably you know what I should do? Now that I think about it, I should put that upgrade, the updated upgrade sheet. I should put that next to the master database link in the description of my stuff. So I think I'll probably do that until the master database is updated. I'll probably just keep both links down there because you never know what people are looking for. Any predictions going forward after this update, i.e. max lancers everywhere? I think you'll see a lot of people upgrading their javelin racks a lot more, new players specifically, because it's like a crutch weapon that people rely on a lot, and that was already a weapon that a lot of people would upgrade, and so I think it'll just happen even more. Probably the same would also happen with like Ares and Guardian. I think because Ares costs credits, everybody gets it. And because Aegis costs 8 coins, a lot of people actually don't get it, or at least they don't get it for a very long time. So they end up relying on Ares as their primary tank, even though Aegis is way better. Tengu, maybe? Yeah, maybe. A lot of people don't get it because it's 8 coins, though. But then again, it's a lot more affordable, so a lot of people probably would get it. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. Like, out of all of the rare mechs, I would actually say that Tengu is probably the best one. But that's only if you, like, use it correctly. You left and your sister paused the stream. Well, if you weren't there, then it kind of doesn't matter. I guess she really hated the stream, bro. Disown her right now. You just maxed your Lancer. Time to use a budget Lacewing Storm Rack. Let's go. I'm actually considering maxing out my Lancer. I made a poll, which a lot of you probably saw, and a lot of you probably already voted on. But if you didn't, then go check my community post. There's a poll asking if I should max out my Lancer. Regardless, I would wait until after I get Orion, because I'm actually like so close to getting Orion, so I'm just gonna get that first regardless, but I might max out the Lancer afterward, depending. Maxing Stalker Rocket Mortar is actually not a bad idea. You know, Rocket Mortar, people tell me that Rocket Mortar is more effective than Fuse Mortar. So like, actually, I kind of see people doing that. Some people might actually do that. It's not the worst idea. Do I max my MD? Don't you have a Salver? Is there literally any point if you have a Salver? Orion before Panther? Yeah. Well, I already have Aegis, which is like basically the same as Panther. I don't really need another one. And also, I could get Panther, but what would I use on it? I don't have duplicated 10 energy weapons. Hold on one second. Yeah, sorry. Alright. For the love of healing, though. If you love healing, you probably wouldn't use an MD, because you just die. You just got your Tengu to 6-star rank 6. 6-star rank 6, or you mean 6-star level 6? A week before they announced the price reduction? That's crazy. Hey, at least you didn't max out your Lancer before they repriced or redid the rank up costs. You know, it used to cost over 3,000 A coins. Like it used to cost more to rank up a light mech than it did to rank up a medium mech, and then more to rank up a medium than it did to rank up a light. So heavy mechs used to be cheap, or did I say medium to light? No, medium to heavy. It used to be cheaper. It used to be cheapest to upgrade the rank of a heavy mech, and then most expensive to upgrade the rank of a light mech, even though light mechs are already the worst ones. So it's like 3,000 something A coins for the last 2 ranks of like mechs like Lancer, which aren't even good. But I did it anyway. You're maxing Tengu first. That's fair, honestly. Maxing out a rare mech actually does cost quite a bit, though. So if there's like legendary stuff that you're saving up for that costs credits, you probably should do that first, to be fair. Because I think it costs like, what, 600,000 credits to max out a rare thing? A rare mech, I should say. Which is, it's a sizable chunk. You could buy Revoker 6 with that. They got everyone who bid for that $9 max out your Lancer deal not too long ago. I had literally until just now, I had no idea that existed. What do you mean? Colin Hazel, hello. You got one question. As promo codes are in your tier list, are there any new promo codes that will benefit me as a returning player? Have you tried Blast Zone? Also define returning. I think that only works if you've been inactive for like 30+ days. Is Rebalance everything that got nerfed and buffed? Yes. Yeah, so that was like Arc Torrent Disc Launcher nerfs, and then Nade Launcher, Cryo Launcher, Chain Gun, Minigun buffs. I think it was honestly neutral. I'll be honest. I think it was neutral. I gave my reasoning for it earlier, but I'll explain it again. Disc Launcher died because of mods. Don't, like, you're like, well, you know, Disc Launcher's garbage now, and it's because they nerfed it. It's not because they nerfed it. Disc Launcher was fine after they nerfed it. For a while, only for, like, I think it was less than a month, until mods came out, and mods killed it, because Disc Launcher doesn't have very much ammo. The multi-layered mods killed it. And Arc Torrent was never really a meta weapon, so they just kind of made made like a mid weapon even more mid, which is, it was unnecessary. Neither nerf were necessary. Let me just get that straight, just so we're clear. I think both nerfs were entirely unnecessary, but they also didn't really do anything. So at that point, it's like they nerfed a couple weapons that weren't good anyway, and they buffed a couple weapons that's they weren't good and they're still not good. So it's like it didn't really change anything. That's my opinion on it. It's like it wasn't really a particularly good update. It wasn't really a particularly bad update. I forgot to ban you. Oh, you reminded me, bro. EM rifles died the most by mods. Oh yeah. No, you're definitely right. Unless you use it on Orion, actually, EM rifle Orion's still pretty solid. You've been inactive for 30+ days, and isn't Blast Zone the code for Guardian and some credits? Correct. Yeah. If you already have Guardian, it should compensate you with Acorns, though. Which, you're a little bit late. I'm not gonna lie. So it'll compensate you with only 420 Acorns as opposed to the 1,000 that you would have got. But it's still something. Free Acorns. I think it's still more than any of the other codes give you. But yeah, if you already have it, it should just compensate you. Blast Zone is for 200 to 300 Acorns. I think you're right, but that's in addition to the Guardian. Hold on, I gotta check. Blast Zone, 200 Acorns plus rank 3 Guardian. Plus 50,000 credits plus a Prodigy crate. It's a solid one. If you can do it, then do it. I mean, there's no reason not to. Gonna run Hellfire 6 MD. Gamer. They fumbled Onslaught, dude. I don't think, like, as I didn't want Onslaught to exist in general. I thought it was like a bad idea. Like, PvE game mode is just gonna take, like, there's barely any players in the game as is. Are you gonna really take them out of the PvP game modes and put them into a freaking bot mode? But then, like, they didn't even make it satisfactory to the people who wanted it. It was such a bad execution. So, like, most of these updates, I would summarize it by saying good idea, bad execution. Onslaught, in my opinion, is bad idea, bad execution. Where is your boy Ares? What do you mean? Ares where? Like, Ares was not a notable update for the game. So, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wonder how matchmaking will react to everyone having one maxed mech now. I mean, as a 3000 SP player, like on my free-to-play account, I run into people with maxed whatever. Sometimes. Like, if it's low tier and their other stuff isn't very good, like, it's not like matchmaking hasn't dealt with it before, but it could potentially hurt you if you're using, like, so let's just get that out of the way. And that's why I put that at the very, very beginning of the video that I made. At the very beginning, it's like the first thing I said, basically. It could potentially hurt you having a maxed out low tier mech. It could potentially hurt your matchmaking. But it's kind of iffy. Like, it really, really depends. Like, I don't think it's super... Like, it can be very different depending on the players. Deathwalker Onslaught. Imagine. Killshot replaced Arachnos Derby? It actually didn't. There's a ABC test where it's like there's 3 different Derby sets that they're trying out for new players. So one of them is Arachnos with the Stasis Beam 8, which is the one that you're familiar with. One of them is Arachnos with EM Rifle 8, which is a different set. And then another one is Killshot with Disc Launcher 8. So they're testing those 3 on new players. At least the Onslaught gives you like 5,000 credits for some, except for the latest one. The Gatecrasher one was terrible. Because there's, 2 levels that you can do for free without having the mech? And neither of those levels gave you any rewards, which is so stupid. You like the idea of using mechs in a wave-like system? Well, that's fine. But I think most people wanted a boss mode. Like, if you were to ask me... Oh, my bad. If you were to ask me, would you prefer a wave defense or a boss mode, I would actually fully take your side on this. I would say wave defense is more entertaining. But I didn't want the PvE at all to begin with. I thought it was a bad idea. The people who thought it was a good idea wanted a boss mode. Or at least most of them did. Obviously not all of them, but I think most people who wanted the PvE wanted a boss mode specifically. So I think it just kind of made I think it just made nobody happy. And Stasis Beam with Disc 8 rank 4. What do you mean? So there's one Onslaught, there's one Derby that, there's one thing that there's no mech, you just get 2 weapon derbies? Oh, so you just got lucky? Yeah, you got lucky for sure. Rank 4 Killshot with rank 4 Disc Launcher 8. I think it was rank 4 anyway. You got hella lucky, bro. I actually made a new account to grind to try to get to... So the goal is to get from tier 1 to tier 5 using 0 promo codes, 0 special download links. Yeah, obviously you could, use those and get really far really quick, but I want to use none of that. I want to just see how long it takes to get to tier 5 with none of that extra stuff. And it took me like 30 minutes to get into tier 3. But yeah, I have Arachnos as the mech, that's the first derby that I'm in. I'm kind of hoping that I get EM Rifle as the second derby. And that way I can use EM Rifles on like Orion or something. Because I may or may not take that account to late game. Like I'll make that my late game free-to-play account. But the one that I currently have, I actually don't want to be late game. I don't want to bring that one to late game. Because it would be very beneficial for me to have like an account that I could use these low energy free-to-play weapons on. To be able to give people better advice, to be able to see how well things work. And also potentially to be able to, use people's low-level dream hangers. You getting Surgery Eclipse for $5, but 2-star. You're at stage 4 right now, and by stage 4, I assume you mean tier 4 in the Gear Hub. Yeah, that's absolutely worth it. Because you're not going to get Surgery Eclipse until rank 7. Rank 7. Tier 7. I can't talk right now. So what's going to happen is, by the time you're in tier 7, you're going to have a lot of blueprints, so you could just like keep upgrading it. And you could use it at 2 stars. Like even in tier 4, you could use a 2-star Surge. If I'm being honest, I'd probably recommend a Surge over Eclipse. Because I think Surge's ability just matters more. Especially at low rank. Because Eclipse is mostly only good if it has high level mods to make it tanky, because otherwise it just kind of walks around and takes bullets. Surge keeps you from taking basically any amount of damage. Eclipse really doesn't. It just keeps you from being stopped. It just makes it so people can't stop you. And if you have really high level mods, then that becomes a really, really massive problem. But if you don't, then like it doesn't really matter. But that's just like my personal take on it. You can watch my Surge versus Eclipse video to figure out which one you actually want to go for, though. You just realized there's no boss fight in the Onslaught. That's crazy. How were mods bad? I think it was a good idea, but I think it was really, really bad execution. Like, not only can you not get mod parts as a free-to-play player, like, basically at all. They, like, basically don't give them out. Period. But also, they just made them... It's too much of an upset, right? They created a problem. And this is the thing that I was talking about earlier. This is the thing that I've been referencing, like, basically the entire time. It's like they created a problem with pilots by stacking way too much damage on the pilots. The pilots disproportionately affected your weapons as opposed to your mech. So the pilots disproportionately improved your firepower over your survivability. And the grade update did that even further. It changed... It made, basically the grade update just made it so that legendary stuff performed better than common stuff. It didn't used to, but they changed it to where it did, and that's what the grade update was. It was to make the item grades to actually mean something. So legendary stuff does more damage, has more HP, whatever. But even in the grade update, they disproportionately buffed weapons over mechs. And so these two things stacked together to create a super, super egregious damage meta that a lot of people complained about. And then they made mods, but in order to make mods to actually balance it out, they had to make mods super freaking strong. And so, yeah, obviously you have all the problems with mods that you have now. How is their free-for-all not that good? Because, like, some people like it, some people don't like it. And at the end of the day, it's not really it's not an added opportunity for you. It's just like some weeks you have to play free for all for tournament. That's literally it. Like there's no strict benefit to it existing outside of whether or not you like the mode. Some people really don't like it. Just want to spread awareness for the Mech Arena YouTuber promo code that gives EM Rifle 6 and Stalker. It's not a promo code, that's a download link. Yeah. So you have to scratch all of your progress. You have to restart and use it. It's actually, I don't like those links. I've known about them for a long time. And I know where I can get them, and I could put them in my videos or whatever. And I could have even used it on my free-to-play account, but I don't like them. Because nobody coming over to my videos, watching my videos, doesn't already play the game. So it's stupid to be like, oh yeah, you know, my top recommendation for progressing as fast as possible is to just completely undo everything you just did and start from scratch using this link. I think it's stupid. I think almost nobody actually wants to do that. link is what you meant. Yeah. No, they're good links. I just don't like them. Revoker 10 or wait for Savant is crazy. You think Savant's gonna be better than Revoker? Like, Revokers doesn't solve all your problems, but, like, don't be mistaken, it's a good weapon. But I think what people assume, for whatever, like, a lot of free-to-play players especially, what they assume is that, you know, buying Revoker will suddenly make them capable of head-to-head, toe-to-toe, blow-for-blow brawling with these other pay-to-win Revoker nomads. You literally can't. You can't. Even if your Revokers are one level lower than them, even if your pilot or your mech or your mods are one level lower than them, then you lose, because it's a raw damage game. And since they're pay-to-win and you're free-to-play, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna lose. So it's absurd that so many people are like, oh, I'm just gonna get Revoker because it's gonna solve all my problems. The number of people, like, there's some people in my comments on that free-to-play video is like, I finally got Revoker. And there's like, oh, you know, GG, now you're gonna start winning a lot now. It's like, what do you mean? I still do better with my pod gun. I hate to break it to you, I still do better with my pod gun. Like, significantly. Because Revoker's not gonna solve all your problems. It's a really freaking good weapon. But it's not gonna solve all your problems. Your Revoker 6 Parasite made a nomad skedaddle away, that's crazy. You got your friend to play through them? Yeah. Like, there's ways to get good usage out of the download links, but I think it's... like... I think it's discouraging to players if you refer to them. I think it's discouraging to players that a lot of people are like, you know, oh, here are my tips for free-to-play players. Number one, if you, like, you know, number one, you can download the game from scratch and start all over again using this link and get this thing and this thing and this. It's like, most people don't want that. They spend too much time on their account. They don't want to do it all over again. Even if it gave them a free stalker or whatever the hell. I think most people don't want to do that. I think it's discouraging to players who are just trying to get good advice and they get this link shoved in their face instead. If you quit Mech Arena, what game would you transfer to? Frontiers? I don't know. I actually haven't been playing Frontiers a whole lot because I kind of suck at it. I've been playing a lot of a lot of Repo with a friend of mine on weekends. It's a lot of fun. People think a skilled Revoker player beats an unskilled one. There's no such thing as a skilled Revoker player. Like, when you're in close proximity, unless you're literally stupid, you're going to be hitting most, if not all, of your shots. You're like, it's just a damage game. It's all about stats. That's what happens in close quarters. And it's not just Revoker. It's any close quarters weapon. If they have more damage output than you, or if they have more HP than you, or if they have better mods than you, or if they have better implants than you, like, which a pay-to-win, like a spending player will always have a better hanger than a free-to-play player. Well, I don't want to say always, but they almost always have better builds. They'll have more HP, they'll have more damage output, they'll have better mods. They'll have better pilots, they'll have better implants. They'll have higher level stuff. I don't know if I already said that. I don't think I did, but... So it's like, you can't just be like, okay, I'm going in, boys. Like, it doesn't work like that. Unless you use a... Like, the only way to win at that point... The only way to win is by having a raw stat advantage, which you don't. Paying players always have raw stat advantage. Or to have the natural ability advantage, which you could. That's why I recommend people use it on, like, a Zephyr, or obviously Surge if they have it, but, like, for free players, a lot of times you have to go with Zephyr. But that's why I got mine on my free-to-play account. And I put it on Zephyr, because Zephyr's the only mech that could make good use of it. If I didn't have Zephyr, or if my Zephyr was, like, useless for whatever reason, I just simply would not get it, because it's not good on anything else. Frontiers takes skill, might need to hop on. There's a lot of spamming in Frontiers, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of... yeah, the meta is kind of annoying in Frontiers, and I also kind of am not very good at it. But yeah, no, it's definitely a lot more skill-based than Mech Arena. You suck too, but it's fun. Thing that sucks is that they've stuffed lobbies full, which puts you in lobbies with max level goons. Oh yeah. See, like, as far as I'm aware, there's no differentiation between like casual and ranked play. Like a lot of games have like ranked matches, but every match is technically ranked in Frontiers, which means that everybody's using the most no-chill, sweaty stuff you've ever seen in your life. And it's super annoying, because it's like actually most of what makes me enjoy Mech Arena is the fact that it's like people actually have some level of chill. You'll see some crazy stuff. I'm using the crazy stuff most of the time, but sometimes I'll see other people using some crazy stuff. But in Frontiers, it is like literally no chill. Zero chill. Should Revokers have an overheat mechanic like Overdriver? They could. I don't know if they necessarily should, but they definitely could. That would be a way of balancing them out a bit. Free me, he says. How? Alright, look. I got a solution, but you're not gonna like it. You got one option. The only way to get out is to stop being so angry. Parasite counters everything but Deathwalker. And Eclipse and Surge, kind of. Like, Surge can just EMP it and wait out half of its duration. I thought you were gonna say Killshot. I'm not heartless. Okay, look. Let's be realistic. You don't understand games like War Robot's too realistic for you, and too slow pace. The slow pace I can understand, the realisticness, I actually love the realism. Anyway, I will free you because I'm gonna end the stream. It's been like probably an hour longer than I planned to stream. I finished this so long ago, bro. And we've just been dogging. And I'm gonna, yeah, it's 8 p.m. and I still haven't eaten, so. This just in, RuFFles has a heart? That's crazy. Please don't go. I mean, there's not really much else to do, though, to be honest. It's okay. Maybe I'll stream... I mean, like I already said, I made a new account. I'm going to try to get from tier 1 to tier 5 and just see how long it takes, and I'm going to make a video on that. I'm not going to stream it, I don't think. I'm just going to record it. But tomorrow, I should get Orion on my RuFFles account. And I'll probably make a video on that pretty soon. And by pretty soon, I mean like the day after tomorrow, probably. Maybe? I don't think the day after tomorrow. I don't know, I have to check. But then after I have the video on it, then I will probably stream on that account again. So, yeah. Update the mech and weapon tier list, please. Oh, yeah. For sure, for sure. I want to make the updated Gear Hub guide first, though. Like, there's so many videos that I'm working on. They really are. I started to, like... I have a bunch of them in, like, a private Discord server. And I have different channels for, like, different types of videos. And I started making threads for each different video idea, and I've started, like, scripting out quite a lot of them. Like I scripted out the repricing one. Oh my goodness, it takes quite a lot of time to script out all of it, and then it ends up being a 6.5-minute video. Like, bruh. I don't know what to do with that. I'm not gonna lie. I would prefer it to be a little bit longer, because then I get more money from it. But, but I mean, like, you know, if it doesn't have to be long, then it doesn't have to be long, I guess. But yeah, I have that one. And then I have 2 other free-to-play related guides that I'm working on. No spoilers. I mean, technically that was a spoiler, but no other spoilers. But then also, yeah, the free-to-play Gear Hub guide, I'm also working on that. I had to make sure... like, I had to wait until this repricing update happened, obviously. But then I also kind of want to give it a little bit of time, because I want to see kind of like how worthwhile it is to upgrade certain things. Because like some things might be worth upgrading, other things might not. I just realized I read that as Mech Police, but that's not what it says. Your name isn't Mech Police. Your name is Mech Poils. Sentry locked himself away? Yeah. Nah. Macarena can't hurt him anymore. It's okay. Will they make a weapon that has every energy variant? I mean, I have no idea. It's been 3 hours. You're right, it has. That's officially like an hour, and I've probably been yapping more than I've been ranking these. And I need to download this stream later and edit it, so for the sake of my own future sanity for editing, I'm gonna do. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Take care.